Promise me you'll find your way home.
I will take this girl, otherwise it's war.
Remember me?
That wasn't hope, that was instinct.
I want them back.
The question is, do you have it in you to make it epic?
I'm Furiosa! Furiosa!
You heard it up top. We are about to race on that road because we are heading to the wasteland. We are trying to survive this apocalypse. We're going a little crazy. We're losing our minds. We're in that fallout because we are talking Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, here on Normies Like Us with your hosts, Colin the History Man.
This is Sludge Master.
And this is Rictus Jake Rectus.
Yes, Coronis Maximus.
I wanted Praetorian Jake. I thought that would be pretty good.
That's a good one.
Truckman Jack. So we're back in the wasteland. Witness us, right? This is cool. Very exciting.
Hamilton.
I realized I was mentioned off pod that we have only done a Mad Max general episode because we started the podcast after Fury Road. So,
Wow, that's true.
you know, we're doing obviously the Mad Max Saga, which is a prequel to Fury Road. So I guess the question up top, because we really haven't discussed it, is, you know, what's your history of the franchise? Just a retouch, because that was 200 episodes ago. And what do you think about Fury Road? You know,
Right.
yeah, Colin, what do you think? Sorry.
Yo, I think this franchise, here's my entire theory and pitch for it, is the easiest thing for a kid to wrap their minds around because it's the easiest thing to play pretend as on the recess yard, right? So my dad showed me this pretty young. I think I saw this with my brother when I was like 8 and he was like 11. My dad was like, I love this movie. Let me tell you a funny story. I took my father-in-law, your mom's dad, your grandfather, to see Road Warrior. He hated it. I loved it. This is like, you know, like a huge franchise for me. And I remember sitting down and thinking like, whoa, you know, why does my dad love this so much? And then watching it and being like, oh, I've never seen anything like this and I'll never be the same. So I've always very much loved it. How about you guys, Jacob?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't watch them when I was a kid, but I did watch them later in life. And obviously, I'm just a huge fan of the whole franchise. And it was very, you know, obviously inspired a lot of post-apocalyptic. When you think of the aesthetics of post-apocalypse, like this is like the first thing that comes to mind, probably Road Warrior, because you know some of the characters and stuff were so iconic. So
The first thing you think, Jacob, is guys and hockey pads, right?
yeah,
Like,
hockey
it
pads
is
and
weird.
mohawks.
A lot
Yeah.
of leather. Yeah. Even though it's a
Yes,
desert.
Mike.
Right.
Yeah. I grew up on this franchise too. Like my dad would show me the movies when I was younger. Like Road Warrior definitely was like hugely influential on like my taste in movies, you know. Mad Max 1 is like a lot different, but we'll get into that. And
Yeah.
Beyond Thunderdome, I kind of grew up on those. But I've always been a huge fan of the franchise. Like I've done a Max Rockostansky Halloween costume, like one arm leather
Dope.
jacket with the shoulder pad. I don't have it anymore, but I have this
Very
leather
nice.
jacket for those at home.
Yeah.
But I love it. So when I saw Fury Road, I was like, I think in the friend group, someone who was the most excited about it. And when it finally dropped, like it blew me away. And I think it's one of my favorite, it's in my top 5 of all time. Depending on the day, it could be my favorite movie. And
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude.
there's just been nothing like it. So when they were announced to be a prequel, it's like, well, I'm a little nervous because Fury Road was so incredible. Like, how do you follow it up? But I was really excited going into this. So how do you guys feel about Fury Road when that released?
Absolutely, same way. I mean, I think we all agree it's one of our favorite and best movies ever. I also just did the full rewatch of the Mad Max franchise, starting with the first one. First one obviously is very different, but you know, it's low budget. It was George Miller's first movie.
It's the Furiosa of Road Warrior. It's the origin story of Mad Max, right?
And it was sort of his
like
film
that.
school, learning on the job.
Yeah.
Then he takes everything he learned, made the Road Warrior, obviously a classic. Beyond Thunderdome, people have mixed feelings about that. I was saying to Colin, it's kind of the Return of the Jedi of the Mad Max franchise to me.
Yeah.
Yub.
Yeah.
Yub, yub.
But there's some
Remember-
things I really like about it, and some things that I'm like,
I really
Yeah,
like
I
the
could do
first
without
half a
this.
lot more than the second half, but the train stuff was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of divisive, but still a classic. Tina Turner in that chainmail
Yeah.
dress. Come on.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
absolutely. And the Thunderdome, Master Blaster.
I just realized I rewatched them all except for Road Warrior because I've seen it so many times, but I did rewatch the rest of them too. But my parents have been telling me bust the deal, face the wheel my entire life. I thought it was just like a thing to follow the rules. I didn't know I was being taught by Mad Max. So
It's amazing.
That's right.
yeah,
Tina Turner.
I was raised on that.
And then obviously
Don't be
Fury Road
a
came
don't
out.
be a pig killer. Is that what the guy's name is?
Yeah, he killed a pig. He's just trying to feed his
I had
family.
to feed my
Don't be
family.
a pig killer, Mike.
Not shit energy. That too. I don't know. But anyway.
Love the
Well, so
Mad Max
Furiosa, or I'm sorry, Fury Road specifically,
Mhm.
Mike, you're saying sometimes it's your number one. You've said
Yeah.
that a bunch. You've said that on the podcast before.
Mhm.
Jacob, am I wrong? Since you've had Letterbox, hasn't it been in your top 4?
Yeah, it was. I think I cycled some of my top 4 out recently, but it's definitely in that mix as one of my favorite movies of all time. And just rewatching it the other day confirmed that, because I'm like, this movie is just so good. It's the coolest movie ever made. And like you're saying, Mike, off pod, like it's just so, there's no fat on it. Like the structure of it is just perfect. There's no wasted moment. It's like a perfect film to me. So
Something
yeah.
a little different than this movie, which maybe we'll talk about.
Absolutely.
But I said off pod to counter you, Jacob, and here was my argument. Is it that, or is it Fallout, Mission Impossible Fallout? But, let us know, listeners.
That's going to be out there too.
I would
Plus-
definitely. Well, like I think in this year, the last decade, we have John Wick and Fury Road. It's like the pillars of modern action, right? And like,
Yeah, absolutely.
they're very different, physical kung fu versus car action. What do you prefer? But we were really lucky with those. So
And Fury Road, I mean, was a game changer with the practical effects. The mix of the practical and CG is just so flawless, because of course they did use CG in Fury Road at times, but it's hard to even tell when sometimes because it's just so flawlessly done. And of course it's got my guy, Tom Hardy.
absolutely, it's
Mel
got my
Gibson,
girl
get after it,
Charlize
you're
Theron.
old. That's right.
You know what?
Yeah.
You
Charlize.
say, Mike, that we only did the one Mad Max episode. I wasn't on the Tom Hardy episode we did. I can't even imagine how much you guys brought him up on that.
That's true. We covered a lot of Fury Road on that. There's 2 movies I have in my life that people get a pass for, like any project I do that might suck. One of them is Gattaca, so like Jude Law, Uma Thurman, like those guys, Ethan Hawke, all get passes. And then now it's the Fury Road team, Charlize Theron, Tom Hardy, Nicholas Holt. Like, you guys can do anything you want. Zoe Kravitz, you're fine.
And Charlize, of course, was a badass as the original Furiosa.
Big shoes to fill, I guess.
Yeah.
Big eyes. Big eyes filling big shoes.
Big trucks.
And I would say these 2 movies, they're very different and they're trying to do different things. And we'll talk about that too. But I also wanted to mention that I've played the video game, the Mad Max 2015 video game. And I do want to talk about it a little bit because I think it's a very underrated game. Kind of got overlooked when it came out, but it's a lot of fun.
Hey, just to interject real quick, I have watched you guys play it. I believe you and your former roommate Cole, but I never got my hands on it. Mike, did you ever play this game?
I have not, but I have heard it's underrated. I've watched some reviews of it, but funnily enough, the year Fury Road came out, this game came out, right? 2015, I think. And my friend worked for Warner Brothers at E3, and I went there, and he got me a Mad Max bottle opener that's a shotgun. So I have the Mad Max the game shotgun bottle opener.
God, that is so cool.
One of the coolest swags from E3 I've ever gotten. So this is from the game, but yeah.
But the game, I want to talk about it for this reason, because this movie confirms it as canon in certain ways that I was not expecting. And this might blow your mind. I'm going to talk about that too. But
yeah, weave that in.
The game, it's not going to blow your mind, and like it's not Elden Ring or anything like that, but it's I think it's a very faithful adaptation of Mad Max, like the feel of Mad Max, the look of Mad Max. What it really gets right is the car combat, where you're driving your car around, attacking war rigs, smashing into things, blowing things up, and just the look of it, the combat, the in-person combat is like the Arkham Batman combat, where you're kind of
that's cool,
dodge, kind of thing. It's not gonna blow your mind again, but the effect of it, the crunchiness of it is really good. So it's an underrated.
I like
game,
that.
It's a lot of fun.
Crunchy,
so I recommend it.
Right.
That's something I might have to revisit now, because I am very much in the wasteland mode, even with Fallout and everything. We're here for it.
That's true. And
Yeah.
boy, a lot of fun in this. But Mike, I use that website. This is maybe a tip for listeners. I don't know if you guys ever do Deku deals, DEKU, Deku deals, maybe or whatever, where they track the price of a video game like over the lifetime of like the cheapest it's ever been. I
Yes.
saw actively one that Mad Max was like $3 or something on the PlayStation Store, and I
Yeah.
still didn't buy it like a
No.
fool. So
Well,
I'm fucking.
I played it originally on
moron.
the PS4 with my old roommate Cole on his PS4. So back in the day, recently, like last year, I think it was on sale on Steam. So I picked it up on Steam, played it again, played it for like 20 hours, had a blast with it. And
Awesome.
yeah, and I was like, this game is great. Like it's so underrated. And the story of it's nothing to write home about, but it's kind of knockoff Fury Road. But
You can
again,
make
this movie,
Max have like a thicker beard and put on like grungier clothes and shit, right? And like kind of like
you can kind of
customize him a little
customize his
bit.
face, and he looks like a
It's nice.
knockoff. He looks like a mix between Mel Gibson and Tom Hardy somehow. But you kind of go with it, and the villain, which is what I want to talk about, is in this movie, Furiosa, which kind of blew my mind. So we'll talk about that. But just
Interesting.
wanted to
Yeah.
say that up top. Yeah.
Well, it's good to know the game's underrated. I'm definitely going to look forward to that. But I think we know Fury Road certainly rated, and I guess now it's just time to determine, did this, like we said in the intro, did Furiosa have it in her to make it epic, or was it simply, yes, mediocre, in the words of the Immortan one? So let's do it. Let's hop in. Full spoilers coming up next around the bend. Furiosa, Mad Max Saga. Normies Like Us.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, just a couple of war boys worshiping Immortan Joe, or are we driving around in a motorcycle horde? That's what we're going to talk about today, because we're talking about Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, a new 2024 film by George Miller, the man who's done all these, right?
Yep.
The man,
my
the myth,
glass of piss here
the
from the
legend.
Piss Boys. We're ready to go.
Hey, Piss Boys.
Throw it out for my Piss Boys, Mike.
Shout out to the Piss Boys. We learned a lot about the Wasteland, and what we know, this is the prequel to Fury Road, so there's a lot of expanded world building on things that were just kind of hinted at in Fury Road. Right. There's a lot of that in this movie, but yeah, it's telling the origin story of Imperator Furiosa, one of the coolest characters ever created.
Furiosa.
Right.
Absolutely, dude.
And a little backstory on this movie. I mean, you guys might know this, but the normies out there, you might not. When George Miller was making Fury Road, he was writing this movie for like 15 years or some incredibly long amount of time. Obviously, there's a huge gap between Beyond Thunderdome and Fury Road. He was doing other stuff, making Babe, Pig in the City, lots of great movies like that.
Happy Feet.
Happy Feet.
We rushed to get there, Mike.
That's how he cleanses from the wasteland. Just make wholesome family movies, and then
Real quick though, have you guys seen those movies? Those kind of family fun movies? Have you seen the Babes? Have you seen the Happy Feets?
I've seen Babe, but not Happy
Babe
Feet.
a long time ago, but I don't.
That'll do, Pig.
Babe was nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture.
They're all very weird. The Happy Feet one is about one of them. The second one is about penguins being abducted by aliens. No, dude. And the aliens are human beings who take him to space, a zoo, like to observe him or whatever. He kind of like has to get home, sort of like a Dory or whatever.
Sure. Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. From what I know, like Happy Feet was reviewed pretty well. Happy Feet 2 people did not like as much, so I'm not sure, maybe that one's more controversial or mixed opinions. But
I think it is a super pro environmental message from what I recall.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, Mad Max is all, pro.
It all came out of the gas shortage, right? Like, what if the world went to shit because fossil fuel?
The soil is sour, nothing can grow. Our bones are poisoned.
We are become Half-Life.
You're right.
Jacob, you are, of course, the seed man. You have the seeds, your little bag of seeds there.
Plant this. Remember the green place.
Bullets are the anti-seed. You plant it and watch a thing die,
The anti-seed.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. So for a long time, he wanted to make another Mad Max movie. So he was like, I'm writing a new Mad Max movie called Fury Road. And while he was writing that, he wrote a backstory for like every character in Fury Road and a ton of world building that didn't end up in that movie, of course, including and especially Imperator Furiosa, who he wanted to make a prequel about that was going to basically be filmed concurrently with Fury Road, kind of like the Lord of the Rings movies. That didn't work out, but he still had this idea that he wanted to make this Furiosa prequel for a long time. Ended up doing 3,000 Years of Longing in between, but eventually got this movie made, and so that's what this movie is. So I think a lot of people had a wrong idea, and we'll talk about sort of the box office of this movie, and did they mismarket it? What was the problem, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people had a wrong idea about this movie. There was some kind of prequel cash-in of an IP that's like, well, who wants to see, a Mad Max prequel with no Mad Max in it? Is what some people think, I think. But I don't think people
Spoiler
realize that.
alert, this isn't even that movie because we do get a little
Mhm.
Mad Max.
That's
in it.
right. We get a little Mad Max cameo.
Yeah.
But I don't think people realize he had, like, this whole story was written before he made Fury Road. That's how long
Mhm.
he's had this idea for. So I think that should be talked about.
Yeah, there were a lot of production delays, start stops. Like at one point, Fury Road was supposed to be shot in Australia, but then they got rain for no reason, and then they was grass growing in his wasteland. So they're like, well,
Right.
now we got to go to Africa. There was a ton of hiccups. They were even early on, like Mel Gibson was supposed to return. Like that's how long he was working on this thing.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
Thank God we
He
got Tom
too
Hardy.
old. And
But
for Furiosa, Charlize, it was going to be Charlize Theron again.
mhm.
But it took so long to make that they're like, well, we need to
Sure.
recast because she's getting too old, and it's a prequel, so it'd be taking place
Yeah.
before Fury Road. So they got Anya Taylor-Joy, of course.
Shout out to Edgar Wright.
ATJ.
You know,
Yes.
from Last Night at Soho, George Miller saw that and
Right.
asked Edgar Wright, "Hey, could she do Furiosa? You think?" And he's like, "Yes, hire her." So a little
George
bit of
Miller,
connection there.
just a real quick shout out, because Mike, that's so important that you're, telling that story, that on this great press tour, he's told stories like this. He's like the most open on his process ever director for a guy who is what, Jacob? 74, 75, doctor, retired doctor,
Oh man.
Literally a
genius,
medical
maniac.
doctor before he started making movies.
Yeah.
Like when he was making Mad Max 1, he was a doctor. He's like, I want to make a movie. Saw a lot of car crashes as a doctor. And
We're
decided
gonna
to
make a movie about
it,
this.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he tells these stories. He tells these production
Mhm.
stories. He told that one. He said, like, I watched The Irishman, and like, I didn't think the technology was there to do it with Charlize. I knew we
Right.
needed
The
on.
de-aging.
Like,
Mhm.
that makes sense, dude. Like, I'm
Which I'm
glad you
glad
talk
he
about
did.
this.
Yeah. Because I think it worked out better this way.
Yeah.
He has a deep
But yeah.
understanding of craft, and that's why these movies turn out the way they do. Before we get into Furiosa properly, but it's like he was talking about Babe, and he's like, Jurassic Park came out, and we were like, holy shit, this is crazy. And he's like, the best I could do with it was make animals talk. Like
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't go too crazy. Like he's very aware of like the advances in filmmaking, and he uses that to his advantage.
Yeah, and I think he builds on what he learns from each movie, from movie to movie. If you look at all the Mad Max movies, he's constantly changing and improving like his stunt work and all this stuff. So you can see over the years how much he's learned, and it kind of culminated with Fury Road and now Furiosa, where it's like some of the best stunt work that you'll ever see.
And again, a very different movie, for, spoilers, than Fury Road. And this does very
Yes.
much feel like we're just looking at George's notebook at times. Like he's like, let me tell you all about Gastown. Let me tell you all about the
Right.
Bullet Farm. Let me tell you all about like everything that was hinted at in Fury Road. He's like, I need to show you my notebook. Like that's how this movie
Yes.
feels. Like I need to show you everything that I thought of because it's really cool.
It really expands the world building. I would
Interesting,
say
Yeah.
now, I'm going to say up top, I don't think this is a better movie than Fury Road.
Whoa. Shocker.
We may all agree on that, but I do think it actually makes Fury Road in some ways better because it's sort of a companion piece, or Fury Road is actually a companion piece to this because it's sort of the epilogue to this story of Furiosa's arc. Again, they're doing very different things, where Fury Road is this lean, mean machine that's one long chase scene and every moment is sort of necessary. And kind of what I liked about Fury Road is that it hinted at this world building without explaining it. It would just kind of throw you into this situation and be like, oh, this guy's name Morton Joe, blah, 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 but not really explain how
These guys really like steering wheels. Fuck you.
Yeah.
We're moving on. Yeah.
But this whole sort
Easy.
of organizational structure of the Citadel and stuff, like it doesn't really go into that too much. It just gives you some details and then it kind of leaves it to your imagination. Whereas this movie, it does be like, okay, so here's what's going on with the wasteland. Here's how everything works. So it's kind of up to you whether you think that's a good idea or not.
And that's
Well,
yeah. Go ahead, Colin.
yeah. Well, I was going to say that chemistry, Mike, is what sort of allows a character to break out. The fact that it is so lean and mean and you don't know much. It's the Han Solo effect where you're like, Imperial Furiosa? What the fuck does that mean?
Yes. That's I think the strength of it is there's so much more than what you see. Like it hints at
Right.
this greater thing, and it's like they just pull you through it at a breakneck pace, and you can't even like absorb it. And like that's so brave. But then this is that's show don't tell. This movie is a lot of tell don't show, I feel. And you mentioned Han Solo. I'm getting a little bit of Han Solo Star Wars story. There's great sequences in it, and I'm saying everything with love. Every criticism
I would
I have
disagree
is
only
coming from love.
because it could have been like, I think if you kind of cocked it up and did a bad job, then it would be more like Solo. But I think everything in this movie to me is like the explanation of certain things makes sense and is like done well. So I can forgive that it is a prequel kind of, and it is explaining a lot of things that happened in Fury Road. It is, I think it's just cool to get more of a glimpse into this world of the Citadel, and you have the opposing, the Citadel versus Dementis's horde, and you kind of see the difference in power structure there, where Dementis, like, his main problem as a leader throughout the movie is that he can't like consolidate power because he has all these different tribes that join his horde over time that have their own leaders, and they kind of break off and do their own thing. So he's trying to consolidate power, and that's his big problem.
I will say again, I have to put an asterisk on everything I'm going to say for this episode because I'm comparing a movie to Fury Road, which is one of the greatest movies ever made. So like, anything I have that is perceived as negative, this movie's way better than most other movies. It's just for my Mad Max fandom. Well, I'm just saying they've never been connected.
Ranks in my ranking of Mad Max movies. I think it's top 3, whether it's 2 or 3. I'm still kind of trying to figure that out.
Interesting.
There's recency bias and stuff, so I don't want to put it too high, but I did really like it. And again, it's a sprawling epic, whereas Fury Road takes place in a couple days, basically. So
like
they're very
3 days.
different kind of movies.
One of my
10 years.
One of my favorite Letterboxd reviewers, Charlotte something, I can't remember her name, I apologize, but called it Lawrence of Australia, Jake. I think that's great.
That's really great.
Because it's really tracking Furiosa's life from when she was a young child through basically the beginning of Fury Road.
It's an odyssey, It's her entire life, basically.
You see that whole arc, which is really more than you ever see in Mad Max. And people are saying, why? So we'll get into some of the complaints that people have with this movie that I don't agree with. But people saying, oh, you replaced Mad Max with a girl boss, right?
Stupid that's wild.
Oh,
who would say that? Furiosa is the greatest. Well, let me say this, and then I want to ask you guys a question. While Mike is offering these asterisks with his sort of tepid response, and I kind of do want to know your first reactions here. And Jacob, obviously, you're figuring out where this goes. I'm thinking on your top 10 of the year. You love this thing.
Yeah.
I want to say to you guys, I didn't really like this movie. That is the bomb I'm dropping right here. I was not super enchanted or in love with this movie. On the criticism we've kind of been focusing on about the episodicness of it almost with its large scale and scope, I almost thought this felt like a TV show or something.
It is broken into chapters. Long. So structurally there's like 5 acts.
Maybe too long. That's another story, because I think Fury Road, one of the strengths of it is it's literally like 2 hours long, and it makes use of every second of that. Whereas this is like
2:45.
George Miller, he maybe got a little indulgent. It was like, I'm old, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want and make like a almost 3-hour movie, and it might be a little bit too long, but
I might never make a movie again.
Yeah,
fair. And so to kind of bring, I mentioned to you guys off pod when this was announced in the trailers, like I love Fury Road, and I'm like, there's never been a movie that is directly connected to another Mad Max movie. We don't know when the hell, Thunderdome happens compared to Road Warrior. They're just kind of like these random tales of Max shows up. So to have something that's a direct prequel had never been done before, and that was my first kind of spot of hesitation. So I'm wrestling with, is it George's Notebook, which is very cool, but is it additive to Fury Road? And I think I'm leaning, like, I don't hate this movie, but I don't like this movie as part of a Mad Max universe.
Okay.
But it's different because it's not a Mad Max movie. It's a movie set in the world of Mad Max, but obviously Mad Max,
it's a wasteland film.
Really, he's not a character in it. And every Mad Max movie is basically him getting pulled into some crazy circumstance, some crazy events. He's involved with them, and then he leaves at the end and goes off and wanders some more.
Sometimes I think there's only one Mad Max movie, and that's Road Warrior. Fury Road's not really a Mad Max movie.
Right. Actually, I would say none of them except Mad Max 1 are, because Mad Max 1 is really about his revenge tale. Even
Mhm.
Road Warrior, he's kind of pulled into these greater events of this settlement versus Lord Humongous and stuff. But he's always a side character in his own story where he's helping out a community generally, right?
He's like generally a good man who's running from himself. Like he gets pulled in
Yeah.
and
Love
reluctantly
it.
helps, right? But there's never been a direct tie-in. So that's where I was like, okay, but I
Yeah.
liked what I saw in Fury
Yes.
Road, so I was open to exploring it more, I guess,
Yeah.
going in.
All right,
I-
so
here-
let
well-
me hold you guys right there because
Yeah.
those are good first reactions.
We
Jacob,
might
you
have
like
a
it.
Thunderdome, two-man enter.
I just
Mike,
wanna
you're
say-
struggling. We're going to the Thunderdome.
I will have to,
I'm
two men enter, one man leaves.
That's right. I'm at the point where talking it with you guys, I know I'm going to like it more by the end of this. But before we
Mhm.
continue forward, let me ask you guys this. What was your viewing experience like for this movie? And I'm going to answer first because I think I'm a good baseline.
Mhm.
I saw this at a totally normal theater early this morning at a matinee with kind of like 12 other people I told you guys at a very nice normal screening.
Mm-hmm. And it's not too packed, right?
No, not too packed.
Well, 9:45 on a Monday morning.
Yeah,
Not the most popular time to see a movie.
Holiday weekend.
That's
high
true.
octane. Yeah.
For me, so I wanted to say, first of all, I went into this podcast expecting basically one or both of you guys to not like this movie or not like it as much as me. So
Really?
I knew
Wow.
Mike was more skeptical about it, and I knew Colin. I just kind of expected you guys to not like it as much, at least not as much as I did.
Mm.
I'm surprised by that.
I know you even might like Road Warrior, like that might be your favorite Mad Max movie over Fury Road.
It is. It is.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's fine. Valid.
Yeah. So I kind of had that expectation. But for me, I went to I saw this in IMAX. I went to the old AMC Burbank where I saw Dune 2, and I had a great time. I had a great experience with seeing both of those in IMAX. And I was looking online, and someone had a video of Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth showing up at a screening and introducing the movie. It was AMC Burbank 16, the same movie theater that I saw it in like 2 days ago. So
I told you off pod it's considered like the best theater in LA to see movies at. Now here's why. I heard Ryan Johnson in an interview say that is where they do tech screenings because of where the projector's aligned. They'll do that thing where he like, I'll sit in the front right and like, does it sound okay? I'll run to the back left. Hey, what's is it all right?
It's honestly a great theater. I've never had a problem with IMAX there. I saw Oppenheimer in IMAX at the TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood.
Wow, right.
This is better than that. This is a better theater to me. It's easier to get to. It's a better, a better viewing experience to me.
Got Barney's
I think TCL is
like
overrated.
the best bar.
Very,
right
and it's
there.
a very touristy area, and it's I hate driving.
You get a lot of mixtapes though when you walk through.
Sure.
That's true.
Picture with
that area of Burbank is pretty touristy though.
It is, but you can drive. You can park for free there.
Yes, you got the garage.
Hollywood is hell.
Super convenient for me, so I like it a lot. Yeah,
to be near the best theater.
Burbank.
How was it in IMAX? I mean, there was some
awesome.
great shots, some vistas. Like the scope of this definitely seems to lend itself to it.
I definitely recommend it for IMAX. And like I said, I've only seen literally Oppenheimer last summer, Dune 2, and now this are the three movies I've seen in IMAX in the past year, basically.
Fair.
And they've all been great experiences. So I'm a huge fan of IMAX. I like to see things on the biggest screen possible, especially for a movie like this or Dune 2, where it's like, come on, you got to see it in IMAX.
Right.
So I had a great time, and it wasn't that expensive because I saw a nice Sunday matinee. It's like $20 for an IMAX versus like 25. So.
All right.
The only reason I did not go to IMAX, because, when I saw Fury Road, I saw it 4 or 5 times in the theaters. I saw it regular, 3D, IMAX. Like, I went 4DX. The first time I saw it was 4DX, which brings me to my screening of Furiosa. I'm like, well, I have to go in 4DX where the chairs rumble around.
Yeah.
And Saturday evening was pretty packed, and I was like, I'm ready to rumble around in a car, because Fury Road was the perfect movie for that. It's 2 hours of driving, right?
Mike, I was going to say, literally, I saw it normal, so Jacob saw it at IMAX. Now, Mike, you saw it in Furiosa's car, is that correct?
I was in the car. Yeah.
They like
exactly.
spray air on you and stuff.
Well, they did. There's some cool effects, like where she sniped somebody and they blood splatter, like water would hit the back of your head. I'm like, whoa.
Dog.
So that kind of stuff is very neat. That being said, the quiet times, which there are a lot in this movie that didn't lend itself to that. But the action scenes were pretty sick in a rumble chair, not gonna lie. Like there's great
Were you getting
sequences in this movie.
thrown?
Yeah, you're like shaking around and like
Yeah.
I want to know like
Jostling?
whose job is it to like program
I
for
was thinking that
specific
too.
movies, like to program the
Yeah.
40x experience, because you got to obviously it lines up with the movie, like it moves when the car moves.
yeah,
and
like the
stuff like
specific
Yeah.
bit for like the headshot. Like who's doing that?
Yeah. Right.
So I did 40x. I'll have to see it again, but it was a good experience
That's
overall.
so cool.
The car movie is the one you're gonna want to watch in 40x. You know, so.
Absolutely.
I said before in this podcast, I did the Scream reboot in 40X, and when Jenna
Oh my
Ortega is
gosh.
getting strangled, it throws you around as if you were being murdered. It's crazy, and I was like,
That
I
is
hate this.
Wild.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know if I've ever seen a regular movie in 40x. I've only seen like you can go to Universal
Yes.
theme park and see like the Shrek experience or whatever.
It's Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I saw The Force Awakens and I was like, nah, not worth it. But Fury Road, because it was the perfect movie for it, I'm like, nothing's gonna match this. But I had to
Force
go for
Awakens,
Furiosa.
Yeah,
not
Furiosa,
worth it.
dude, that was a good call. I'm proud of both you guys. That is a really cool way to see this movie for both
Yeah.
of you.
Just with
Love
the
it.
cinematography, it's massive. But yeah, and there are again, I'm still figuring out my feelings. I think it's long, but I do think there's also some incredible sequences in this thing, and I have trouble placing it in the compendium of Mad Max of is it additive or not. But that being said, there's a lot of good in this movie. So yeah, let's maybe
Yes.
kind of just walk through where's the plot, some of the good, the bad, the ugly. You know, Western reference, why not? Yeah,
Yeah.
and just jump into this thing.
We're back here on Normies Like Us. We're in the green place right now because we're about to kick off talking Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga.
Peach.
Grabbing
delicious.
that peach.
That's right.
But let's set it up a little, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
5-act structure, kind of going from her childhood until basically moments before we meet her in Fury Road. So I just want to run through
Seconds
the
before.
seconds, which when we get to the end, I have a major criticism. But
Wild.
that
Yeah.
being said,
Well, we don't know how long is in between like basically the end of the Dementis arc and
right.
that last scene, right? It could have been like 10 years or something still.
Sure. That
Like, she could have
that
just been
sort of
working for Morton
post-credit
Joe the
scene
whole
with
time.
Dementis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So 5 chapters. I'm just going to list the chapter titles here. It's very Zack Snyder's Justice League. Dang it, George. Anyway, we have the Pole of Inaccessibility when she's like young and first gets kidnapped by Dementis. Lessons from the Wasteland is her kind of growing up with Dementis, meeting a Morton Joe. The Stowaway is her kind of learning the ways of being an Imperior or with Truckman Jack. Basically, we'll get to it. Homeward, I think, is her beginning her kind of journey to becoming the Imperator, and then Beyond Vengeance is trying to track down our boy Dementis. So
Yes.
5 acts, different points of her life. We get the first 45 minutes with a child actor, kind of. So an hour of this movie is not
Yeah.
even Anya Taylor-Joy, which
A
was
lot of
shocking
this
to me.
movie, which
That's
I was very surprised
A
about. Yeah.
wild fact about this movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
a
she
lot
does a
of it
good
is with
job,
this
but
kid
it's just
actor.
long.
hmm Well,
But-
first of all, I thought the beginning of this movie I was really a big fan of.
I agree. I love her mom hunting, like tracking her down, the kidnapping. But then I
Yes.
have issues with urgency because they're like, it's 3 days drive that she's following them. It's like, this should be happening today. Like after seeing Fury Road, like how you track people for 3 days. That's just like my personal, like it feels like it's taking
What do you
too
mean?
long. Like
What is?
by the time the mom catches up with the captors and stuff, because she's picking apples,
Oh.
the motorcycle people take Furiosa, and then the mom is tracking her down, which is very cool. But it's days and nights and days and nights, and I just
Right. Well,
That's-
she's following him the whole time, right?
right. But it feels. I looked up a map. It takes 41 hours to drive across Australia. So there's nowhere that would take 3 days to get to in one
Oh.
direction.
You can get across Australia in 2 days.
Yeah. So when
That's
things
wild.
are 3 days ride away, that's not true.
It might
No
be
point in
a little
Australia is
exaggerated
that
just
far.
for the
I know I'm
fantasy
being
of it.
nitpicky,
But
No,
but
no, I love
I
that.
feel like it'd
Yeah.
be better if it's like she catches up to them the same day and then gets like dooskied or whatever. Like it just.
Do you remember
doesn't
the
she,
line
though?
in Fury Road where she
days.
says when Furiosa meets the Vuvellini again, and
my
she
mother
says,
died on the third day.
How many days has
Yeah.
it been? 7,000 days. What?
Yeah.
And what of Mary Jabari? Mary Jabari died on the third day. So
Yeah.
there is stuff
You're
that
right.
like they feel like he has to own up to in this movie
Yeah.
a lot.
No,
I
you
feel
got me
like.
there. I'll forgive. I
Yeah.
apologize. And her name being
No, no, no. I
Furiosa.
mean, it is if it, how he fills that stuff in is what makes it work or not.
I love the
Yeah.
mother character and all that stuff. And again, like if you
Yes.
rewrote this, her name would be like Hope or something. Like it wouldn't be Furiosa. She would get that name from Dementis. But whatever. We already have Fury Road, so we can't change
but
it.
I also thought, when in Fury Road, it's always was weird to me that her name is Furiosa, and then they're driving on the Fury Road. And it's like
Fury
it seems
Road.
like she would have got it being an imperator or something that she was given that name.
But then
But
the
when she
Vuvolini
meets
are like,
the
oh
Vuvolini
yeah.
in that movie, they're like,
Well,
oh,
we
it's
also
not
learned that
Furiosa.
her friend in this one, the other little girl's name is Valkyrie. Yeah,
which
which
was the character in Fury Road that she meets.
yes, but I was gonna say
Yeah.
that the War Boys talk about Valhalla so much. It's like, well, how did those cultures like cross? Like, how are all these like legends and myths just?
But if you remember
so
in Fury Road,
strange.
when they eventually do meet up with
Yes.
the Volvolini,
She's the naked woman.
Yeah, that's big. That's what Tom Hardy says.
So that's Valkyrie. And she's
that's
like,
Valkyrie,
pretty badass in that too. She's doing her thing. Well, that's cool then.
Yeah, and they're like, this is our Furiosa. So she was called Furiosa by the Volvolini in Fury Road. I just always thought it was weird that there's the Fury Road in Fury
We
Road.
found the single
historic
flaw
Fury
in
Road.
Fury Road.
I think that's just George Miller names things crazy things.
No, I can
right?
forgive it. But that being said, this first act, I love. Like, I think the mother. I want a whole movie about the mother character for doing prequels. Like, she was so badass. I really like
Mary
her sniping and
Jabasa.
Jabasi, that's what it was. Jabasa.
This actress, people are kind of raving about her. In her limited time, she was really good. She was in that Anyone But You rom-com with Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney.
Oh, who did she play? I saw that. I can't
haven't seen
remember.
that, but that was like the only other movie she's done so far. But she's
Weird.
kind of a breakout character of this.
yeah,
And yeah,
I'm
It's a
super
movie that
impressed
takes
with
place
her.
in Australia, so that makes sense.
And I like that
Yeah, I
we
think
show
she's
Australia. Like, this is definitely in Australia. Internet. Do you see Australia? That's very funny. Opening shot.
Oh
Yeah, we're
zoomed
saying
into the
we start with
continent of Australia.
Furiosa. Y'all, we do not start with Furiosa. We start with
Australia.
sort of the build up to the war and the
It starts the same
history
way
man.
Fury Road starts in kind of maybe every Mad Max movie where there's like there's a bunch of voices saying like the world burned, like
They reuse some of the
soil is
same
sour.
stock
Goodbye,
footage.
mommy.
Yeah.
And voice clips from Fury Road too.
The government, they say everything will be fine. Daddy, where are you going? No, no.
Oil wars.
And then it zooms into the continent of Australia,
into the green place.
into the green
Into
place,
the green
which we
place.
found out in Fury Road, of course, is where Furiosa was from.
Yep. If I may, real quick. Yeah, just my main criticisms is a lot of pacing and stuff, whatever. But like, I do want to say every moment of this movie, there's cool shit on screen. Like when we see the scavengers and the way they're like, I need this gas tank, and just little details like that of like, I'm gonna rehook up a gas tank, and just everything is so well thought out. Every detail, every fingernail is like considered. And I love that.
We're at the point now where George Miller, and you guys were saying, like, again, this is, or maybe we're even speculating, maybe this is one of his last movies or whatever. He's getting so up there. He's a master of his craft. He's been working so long or whatever. He's working at a technical scale now where the depth of field is so wide that those shots and everything that's going on, Mike, like you're saying, is so interesting that's on screen. Like those shots where Furiosa goes up to the fuel tank to sabotage the bikes. The bikers, the scavengers in the foreground are moving at a different shutter speed almost, at that sort of cranked up George Miller style. To show you that like anything can now like, have the touch of him. It's not just his classic push, and it's like he can touch anything on screen with his own, George Miller-esque magic. It's incredible.
The craft is impeccable here.
Yes.
Absolutely. And something that's a big part of Fury Road that you guys probably know about is that like he does have that variable frames per second thing where if something is too slow, he'll speed it up. That's why Tom Hardy it almost
he was
gives
cutting
like
frames out of actions too. Like he would remove frames wholesale. So
so it's got a very signature look. I think a lot of the complaints with this movie comes down to it's not Fury Road 2. Like it's again doing a very different thing, including the pacing where it's just not paced like Fury Road. And I think that's okay. And like I agree with you, Colin, that it could have been like a mini series or something like that because it is just a very different kind of movie to me. and it's slower paced. It's much more bloated, and I do think it might be a little too long and overstuffed with ideas and things. But it's kind of like everything that George Miller wanted to see in a wasteland type movie, he's going to throw in there.
There is just to, we're not there, obviously. We'll go through the whole of the film, but just to, and not to rebuttal that, because opinions or whatever, I agree with you. And like I said, I want to hear the arguments of why this is good. But aside from just him taking the time to do the George Miller isms, Jacob, that are maybe adding length of this and making this longer, there'll be stuff where there'll be the scenes of like, Furiosa gets her arm built. She walks out to kind of her old Black Thumb crew and says, I need a car. They all take a beat to say, well, we don't have a car. One of them says, I have a car. And they say, you have a car? And he says, I have a car. And then they go and he shows her the car and he says, is this a good car? She says, because she doesn't talk. And she gets in the car, drives to Scrotus. He says, oh, what are you doing here? Grab that tire. Get into this car. Gets in a different car, they take off. So to spend that much time just like setting up like that car, like there are moments where where I'm like, George, like you kind of are wasting time at moments that I'm not positive what you are trying to convey to me with the moments you're choosing to waste time with.
I want to talk about that moment too, because again, some of these characters are characters from the video game, including that character that is like, oh, here's a car. That character
really
Chum Bucket, who is the little guy that rides with Mad Max and like works on his car. He's like a little weird guy named Chum Bucket, and I was blown away that he was in this movie.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's a video game reference? Holy crap.
Yeah. That's crazy. So. He steps forward. He seemed so important for that one moment, Jacob.
Like
I guess that
Chum
makes
Bucket.
sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
The only thing I can think of is that the video game, when they were writing the video game, they took notes from George Miller's world. And it's like, oh, you didn't use this character? We'll throw that in. But again, the main villain in the video game is Scrotus, the third son of Immortan Joe, who's not in Fury Road, but is in the video game. So in Fury Road, he
dies in the video game.
He dies in the video game.
I wondered why he didn't die in this movie. I got very confused.
They introduced him and you would think, oh, this guy's not in Fury Road. He's going to die, right?
Yeah,
he doesn't. But he dies in the video game. But he's the main antagonist of the video game.
That's
Fury Road,
awesome.
Immortan Joe has two sons in Fury Road. Rictus Erectus and Corpus Colossus, which is that little guy
in the chair,
wheelchair.
Oh, right.
Dead. Yeah.
Sadly, that actor died in 2020. Corpus Colossus actor. So R.I.P.
That's it. Immortan Joe, rest in peace.
Do you guys think I'd be the son with the two sets of legs?
Oh man,
you'd definitely be defective somehow. Yeah.
I would make it.
So. Yeah, Scrotus, not in Fury Road, and then they just introduce him in this. I'm like, Scrotus, that's the bad guy in the video game.
I wish I played this now.
Blowing my mind.
If now the video game I'm like super better, mad, Mike. I'm mad, Colin. You're mad, Mike, because this is bullshit.
And did you know Scrotus in this movie was played by the same actor that played Slit in Fury
Road? I recognized him.
I did,
the guy from X-Men.
The other, Stryker in the one X-Men.
Yeah.
And the other war boy that's like on Nicholas Holt's car, the Lancer.
You're my Lancer. Well, I'm your driver now. I just promoted myself.
Yeah. Same actor. So I like how George Miller will just reuse some actors and
like the gyrocopter guy.
Yeah, the gyrocopter guy is in Road Warrior too, as the airplane guy, right?
Did you guys know the one-eyed guy in this is also Immortan Joe?
Yeah, the new Immortan Joe, because obviously
that's wild.
The original Immortan Joe, who also played Toe Cutter in the first Mad Max, unfortunately also passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah. But so that's interesting, Jacob. But I guess to bring us to, like you said, Dementus is mentioned in the game too. So Furiosa gets taken to Dementus' camp, and we meet, like, which I think is the highlight of the movie, is Chris Hemsworth as Dementus. I think he crushes it. So is he referenced in the game too, before we kind of get in there?
Not that I remember.
I thought I heard he was like name dropped. It's like, there's some motorcycle asshole, but
yeah, it's possible. I mean, that game was made in like 2015, right? So,
but all these
again,
notes
I think they must have been using notes from George Miller, because to have a character named Scrotus, who's Immortan Joe's unmentioned son in Fury Road at that time, I was like, oh, this is kind of where the knockoff comes in. We're like, we need a new Immortan Joe's son to be the antagonist, but it turns out George Miller had that character in mind
Already.
the whole time, I guess, which just kind of blows my mind. But in another thing I like is how are some returning characters like the organic mechanic, and you kind of find out what his deal was, like where he came from and stuff.
That's solo Star Wars story though, a little bit.
But that is Mike. Thank you.
Sense.
But Jacob, is this what we need to be spending our time on?
It's logical, but
I like the little details because as opposed to Solo, where like they need to know where his last name comes from. Like that's stupid. But this is like all those little details kind of fills in the world.
He says why his name is the organic mechanic in this, Jacob. It's the exact same level of writing.
But more just where he was originally with Dementis and then got traded with Furiosa to Immortan Joe. You just learn more about the background of Immortan Joe's clan basically versus Dementis. And I like the contrast between Dementis and Immortan Joe as leaders and as warlords, kind of. Like I said, where Immortan Joe, they have this very strict structure of leadership, right? You have the war boys who are willing to die for Immortan Joe. Then
Pick one for me right now, Jacob.
Which was sick.
Witness me.
My smeg
you have
pick,
sort of have his council of like the people leader and stuff, which of course is another character that was in Fury Road and people like that.
The bullet farmer,
yeah, his sons. Then you have the Praetorians or whatever, and the Imperators, like these kind of generals in his army that are a little bit higher up. Versus
milkers and stuff. He's got a whole thing.
Yeah.
I like learning, Mike, that the wives who fuck up become the milkers.
Sure.
Wild.
Versus Dementis's horde, which is just a giant horde of motorcycles. Dementis almost is like Genghis Khan, right? He's just roaming around, absorbing other tribes into his tribe, and either killing the leader, or if they, agree to join him, then they let him in.
Strength in numbers.
Yeah. And he says he's doing like an accent that's like his grandfather's because he's an Australian guy, And what I love about Dementis is in the trailer, I'm like, oh, it's just going to be B-grade Immortan Joe, but he's so different because I if you know Australian like I do, he's like a bogan. He's like a redneck backwoods guy where like his whole thing's like, well, I reckon I could take him. Yeah, no problem. But like you can't. Like he thinks he can just do because he wants, but he doesn't understand how to consolidate power. So I think it's funny. He's like, oh, I'm Immortan Joe.
He touches.
Fuck you, man. And it's like, maybe don't fuck with him. Is it not going to take him?
But Immortan Joe realized the importance of having like this rigid power structure where he's like this almighty god and no one can question him and stuff like that.
And beyond that, Jacob, as a leader too, there are 3 points in this movie where his council are arguing and Immortan Joe makes the decision. Like he lays out the plan where you're like, he is a leader.
Yeah. We have 2 choices.
Sadly,
there's my choice. Yeah.
This Immortan Joe, one of my problems with this movie, didn't love this Immortan Joe. I know they're doing their best because they can't replace the original actor. I forget his name, but he just pales in comparison to Fury Road Immortan Joe. Unfortunately, he's trying to do his best, but it's just not the same.
Didn't quite have it in mediocre, but he's doing his best.
Mediocre.
But I think Dementis is one of the highlights of this thing. His arc of like biting off more than he can chew, losing his grip of his crew, not knowing how to run Gas Town, and just like, man,
basically just
beautiful.
Fucking up, like thinking he's outsmarting Immortan Joe, and then fucking up, and then starting a war and like immediately losing.
So, Mike, this movie is called Furiosa, a Mad Max story. We get the fade in of that
Mad
title
Max
card.
Saga.
Saga.
Thank you.
Damn it.
Top left, we get Anya Taylor-Joy. That name fades in. Top right, Chris Hemsworth. So it is equal billing now, Mike. Now you're saying you love Dementis in this. Now again, we're complaining about the length. We're complaining about sort of the expansiveness, maybe biting off more you can chew, talking about kind of like Dementis.
Right.
Is this maybe part of the issue that he's absorbing so much of the story?
It's the same thing that happened to Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy had his movie stolen by Furiosa, and Furiosa had her movie stolen by Chris Hemsworth.
That's interesting.
Here's the thing. I think Fury Road, it was always a Furiosa movie. Again, Mad Max is a side character where he gets involved in these events. He's never really the main character. Maybe he is a little bit more.
It is called Mad Max Fury Road. I will remind you that, Jacob.
But it's every Mad Max movie. He gets pulled into some
I know.
But
extenuating
that blonde-haired
circumstance
dude in the
between some
village is not the
communities.
main character of Road Warrior. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and in
But I hear what you're saying.
Thunderdome,
It's
yes,
focused on
Tina
her.
Turner's good, but at the end of it, you're not like Auntie Entity. We got to get a prequel
Right.
story. You know, Master Blaster. We got to know their background. Like Max is the fun part of that movie still.
I agree with that, and definitely Furiosa takes over the movie more than any other character has in another Mad Max movie. So I
Yeah.
agree with that. But Fury Road is her movie,
Mm-hmm.
and Furiosa is her movie, and I think Dementis is important to show where she came from, and as her formative events as in a childhood. And I also think Dementis, who I think might be my favorite Mad Max villain of all of them.
Honestly,
yeah,
that's interesting.
And-
I have to think more and watch it 4 more times, but I really enjoyed his performance.
He might be the most developed out of all of them, and his
Mhm.
backstory, they kind of touch on it. They don't mention it too much, but essentially he has the same backstory as Max himself, where he loses his family
Mm-hmm.
right at the end of the apocalypse, or the beginning of the apocalypse, right? Just like Mad Max 1, where he loses his wife and child, and it kind of drives him mad. And I think Dementis had a similar backstory where he loses his family, and instead of making him like a lone wanderer, reluctant hero like Mad Max, he just goes crazy and becomes a villain.
He just starts chasing sensation, he says, to feel
Yeah.
anything, right? So he just wants that high, and that's where the bear comes from that he does give Furiosa. That becomes kind of like a motif that we see throughout the movies. Like, oh, this belonged to my little ones when he has her captive.
Yeah.
Mike, is
Really,
he ejaculating at the end there? Is that high that
I
he's
thought he
chasing? Is that
was.
what that's supposed to be?
I
Okay.
thought he came and died.
I didn't understand it at all.
Like when he's a
moment.
tree and stuff.
Because, well, no, he
Well,
gets off on the
that I
nipple
do.
thing, too.
But yes, that I liked. Yeah. But before,
Yeah, I think so.
But he's
I think
become
he
so
ejaculates.
desensitized that he's just trying to feel anything. And he's kind of the most evil character that I've ever seen in a Mad Max movie, where he just hates the world, hates everything. And even, someone like a Morton Joe has more of a
Code.
more humanity going on in that he has like a family and stuff. But yeah, I guess yeah.
He lives up to his name. He makes Furiosa as a child watch as they crucify and kill her mother,
Yes.
and then keeps
like,
her around.
Tears of joy and tears of sorrow taste different. And he's like, yes.
I wish they would have paid that off at the end. Not to jump too far ahead, but she has a tear, and I wish she'd be like, what kind of tear is that? Is it sorrow?
Right.
Joy? They could have paid that off. Damn it! We had 2 hours 45. But yeah, he's a fascinating character, and I like his eras. Taylor, shout out Taylor. He's got his white era, he's got his red era, and his black era. I love that there's
just like
Dementis the white, Dementis the red, Dementis the black. Yeah, whatever.
The dark, dark Dementis.
Dark Dementis.
You made me become Dementis.
Why have you done this to me?
Yeah,
but I
love that.
He is sort of a contrast to Max, and he's also a contrast to Furiosa, where she has a similar origin, where he even says like, "You're just like me. I made you into me," basically, and she's like, "I'm nothing like you."
I'll say this: I think the most interesting scene in this movie is during the first failed raid on the Citadel, where the war boy shows off that he'll stand up to him, and the destruction starts. When he races to save her, like there is a genuine, he does want to protect her from that chaos, and he thinks about her over his own safety.
And he calls her his daughter, treats her like
he's hurt with the teddy bear. He takes it back. Like there's such interesting moments here. Like Mike said, it's like everything on screen. I'm just like, this is blowing my mind. I don't understand all of it, and I think a lot of it's purposefully challenging, but it is interesting.
And he can be hard to pin down because he's sort of contradictory, because he obviously cares about her a lot as like his adopted daughter, but he's also
it's like you also
trade her away
mom,
murder her mom, and he's also trades her away to Morton Joe for like no reason, or he gets
so he does
food and stuff
for a title.
Yeah, basically. But he is like super interesting. I love Dementis. Like you say, he's like Max, but instead of going around solving problems, he goes around making them. It is wild. And
again, Hemsworth,
I like that.
I think he killed it, and I always liked him as Thor. I thought he was, especially in like Thor Ragnarok and stuff, where he's allowed to be a little more less serious.
He hasn't
So
had
hold
this
on,
much
Jacob.
fun since Fat Thor. He has not had this much
Oh,
fun
no.
since Fat
Mike,
Thor.
but okay, so that's I would argue this is the second time that he's gotten to have fun with prosthetics. So
Yeah.
what do we think of the look? Do
He's
we
got
like
like a big
Dementis?
nose. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think
The
he's
voice,
looking,
Mike said.
he's looking great. He's got that
Yeah.
motorcycle chariot, which is very cool.
His arms
Yeah.
are juicy. I mean, they are big. So,
He's
Mhm.
ripped.
yeah.
And I think we have to talk about, is Chris Hemsworth, is he surpassing Chris Pine as the best Hollywood Chris now? Or is it
This
still
No.
Chris
might put
Pine?
him over. You think he's better?
No, I'll
This
never
is
give
really
up on
good.
Pine. No,
Fair.
how
I
dare
mean, he
you
does
guys?
have D&D and Star Trek, so
He has
that's
D&D and
Yes.
Star
something.
Trek. And I like
Um,
I don't love Marvel really that much anymore. Like I'm not a rewatching of Endgame ever, right? But
yeah.
I like Dementis a lot. But Chris Pine, we'll
I
keep
think
the
he
crown
killed
on
it.
you for now.
Yeah, and Hemsworth, I mean, he's having a lot of
Breakout.
fun playing a villain. For some reason, every Avenger movie, every Avenger actor has to play like a crazy villain after that, just to kind of palate cleanse.
This is an
like I was
Australian
sharing those
rite of
pictures.
passage.
Yeah.
To be
Oh,
a villain in a
100%.
Mad Max film, how fucking cool is that for
Well,
the
he was
Australian
even
pride?
saying, he said in an interview basically like America has Star Wars, the UK has Harry Potter, Australia has Mad Max. So to be in a Mad Max, it's like a huge honor to me. It's like what I've always wanted to do. And you even said like his dad was like one of the motorcycle guys in Mad Max 1.
He
right?
auditioned, yeah, to be in the motorcycle gang and Toe Cutter's
Yeah.
gang in the first film. Yeah.
Wow.
So to him, it's like a huge honor to even be in this movie.
And he was
looked
also in
up to
Star
George
Trek.
Miller.
Yes,
true.
you got to
That's true.
start. Never forget, Mike. But so hold on, and I know Jacob, you want to make like a much bigger point about the box office, maybe closer to the end of this podcast. But like,
Yeah.
with the Chris Hemsworth of it all, with like Thor: Love and Thunder was a bomb, dude, and like
Mhm.
this is a bomb, dude. Like, what does that do to you going forward?
I think there's a lot of reasons why this didn't do well. Partially, it's a prequel to a 9-year-old movie that didn't do that well
It's
itself.
5 years too late, I think that's a
Yeah.
problem too.
And people forget.
It's been 9 years.
Yeah,
2015.
2015. Mad Max Fury Road was not really a financial success. Like it basically broke even, but it lost its opening weekend, if you remember, to Pitch Perfect 2.
Please don't
So-
say that to me.
Oh,
made more money than
no.
Furiosa,
That's not
but
nice.
Mad Max has never been like a guaranteed, money maker. So for them to even greenlight a prequel,
But hold on, so save all this because
Yeah.
we'll talk about what this maybe
Yeah,
was doing. But so the
legacy.
Chris Hemsworth of it all, like, can he keep surviving this? What does he do? Does he go back to Marvel in your mind? Does he try to do like smaller character roles?
I don't know.
Like
He does those like
Ghostbusters?
extraction
Ghostbusters was a
movies.
failure. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. He's got that Netflix horrible franchise. You're
Oh.
right.
But people like that because it's like, he can do.
Yeah.
He's just doing a straight action man stuff, and
Yeah.
the thing is, you have to understand, and this is to my overall point about the box office. A lot of people are just stupid, and they don't have good taste. They like bad things. They don't like good things, and
Mhm.
I just
think
don't think
it's
there's
that
movie
much.
stars anymore. It's like that's
Well,
not what
yes.
carries a movie. It's like that's not
His-
his fault.
His
No.
name isn't enough to carry a movie. Neither is Anya Taylor-Joy, but really, there's no one like that. Even like a Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, like these are not names that are selling movies.
Right.
And to your larger point about movie stars, there really isn't anyone. There's no Tom Cruise that's like selling a movie based on
No
being Tom
Johnny
Cruise.
Depps anymore, right?
Yeah.
Well, fuck Johnny Depp, but you know what I mean. That era, Leonardo
wish.
DiCaprio.
Really, the
I
era of
wish
the
we got
movie
another Johnny,
star.
Mike.
The era of the movie star is over, and I mean, you have
Yeah.
your Timothy Chalamet, your Zendaya, your I don't know who else.
Leo
Sydney Sweeney.
Austin
is
Butler
like,
now?
1,000
Yeah.
years old. Yeah.
But like they're pitching
Mhm.
like this new generation that like Timothy's the new Leo, like so and so's the new Brad Pitt or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
people, they're good actors, but they don't have the star power, whatever that is that draws people. And people
Yeah.
don't really go to see movies based on the star anymore. It just seems like.
No. They're discerning, but we'll get to all that. But I do
Yeah.
think it's not necessarily Chris Hemsworth's fault. It's not Anya
No,
Taylor-Joy's
I wouldn't blame it on
fault.
him. I think he did great.
Hmm.
But so obviously, these two raiders steal Furiosa from the Green Place. Her mom tries to track them down, almost stops them, but isn't able to stop them from delivering her. Yeah.
Before we leave the Green Place, we get maybe the most shocking shot in this film outside of the cameo that we'll talk about later. But
Mhm.
we get, of course, the widescreen shot of Mary Jabari or whatever her
Jabasi.
name is. She's Jabasi. Oh, I'm working away. Blah blah blah. Furiosa's gone. They took Furiosa. Runs off. The camera pans up as we pull back. Not only is the green place a place of abundance, they have solar powers and a wind farm. It is a place of technological advancement. It is
Yeah.
true paradise in the Fallout, right?
Yeah.
Kind of showing that not everyone is as savage as certain communities.
No. And then
They're
again,
utopian.
Yeah.
yeah. And that we get
But
only a
as we
hint
see
of
by
it.
Fury Road,
Yeah.
the green place is destroyed by Fury Road, where they're like, the green place is gone, and
The
that's like the whole.
crows.
We don't see that in this 2 and 45-minute prequel film. We don't see the green place get destroyed. Why do
No.
anything like that? But
it's somewhere
Wow.
between when Furiosa left and when she comes back. And
Right,
it's gone by the
right.
time she comes back.
just give me one line of freaking Immortan Joe. Send the party over that way. Like, whatever, like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, nobody ever found it. 15 years, I guess.
And
in
she just
15
decided
years, it
after,
really
like,
swamps.
yeah, she stops Dementis and then is like, fuck it, I'll
Well-
go back to Joe's house. Like, you didn't go home? Like,
I
it's
think
a little flimsy.
Post Fury Road, it's unclear what happens, but it's maybe she doesn't stay in the Citadel, after Fury Road. I don't know.
No, but we know the green place is dead in Fury Road. So at the end of Furiosa, why did she just
Right,
go
right,
back
right.
to the Citadel? You could have gone home. You're free and clear, right?
When?
So what she implies is for the wives at the
Yeah.
end, but again, it's like
You haven't
but
showed any
this
inclination to them,
movie,
but jumping
we
ahead.
don't. Yeah, there's no. I mean, she escaped that life. She is.
You
she
didn't
is
bond with
no-
them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I have that issue too, Mike.
But,
but
we'll get there. Let's take a quick break
I'm confused. Yeah.
and come back. I need to get more piss.
We're back here on Normies Like Us again, talking Furiosa.
Yeah. I mean, I think
So-
that's like really, there's like 4 key plot, because we're jumping around anyway. There's like key
Yeah.
beats, right? So she's captured by Dementis. She's then traded to Immortan Joe so he can take over. He wants to take over Gastown. Then there's her becoming the Imperator, working with Truckman Jack, and then getting revenge. And it's like the key moments, right? But then there's
Yeah.
action scenes throughout here that I think are strong, but that's just like to lay out the plot so that we can kind of jump around.
Right.
Well,
I want
'cause
to
we're
talk
still
a little
very
bit
much
about.
in child era, but
Yeah.
you know.
I want to talk about
It
her.
will be
meeting-
forever, is what I thought watching this movie. The whole time I kept thinking, is this what this film's about? And then it would go to another scene and I'd be like, still no Anya Taylor-Joy. Is this what this movie's about?
takes
It
to like
was
chapter
surprising.
3.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
surprising how much of this movie is not Anya, but it's this.
They
other
do an
little girl.
interesting technology thing you mentioned though, Jacob,
Yeah.
where they kind of change her face every shot or scene.
They used AI deep fake tech, which some people are like, how dare they use AI? It's not generative AI. It's AI
hmm
using AI assistance as a tool. It's different than just generative AI, which
It's
is
doing the maps.
making
to-
something out of nothing, basically.
Right.
It's the same thing as deep fake, right? So it's
Being on
basically-
Star Trek and saying, ship, calculate, blah, blah, blah. And the ship goes 5,000 meters, blah, blah, blah. And you're like,
Right.
Yeah.
excellent.
So
So
it's,
you need
it's
help
human
sometimes.
artists using
Yeah.
AI
Mhm.
tech, but it's basically they're melding Anya's features to this little girl to make her look more like young Anya. And I could have sworn, I don't know if this is true, but I feel like with some of the later shots, especially at the very end when she's sort of walking to the truck, taking the wives, I thought maybe they were mixing some Charlize into the Anya.
I didn't see any of that.
I wouldn't
don't
know
Really?
for
think so.
sure, but it's
Yeah.
not
There's some
impossible, but-
shots of her where I'm like, she looks crazy like Charlize, and the way she walks. I thought Anya herself was doing a good job with the voice and the way she walks, the way she carries herself. I thought it was very
God,
Charlize and Fury Road.
Jacob, I'm trying to think, how big were those eyes in IMAX, dog? I mean, the whole, I mean, just,
IMAX.
Big
did you
eyes.
think you were going to, like, black hole style, get sucked inside into
Yeah.
them?
Look, big eyes are very, very
Oh.
in right now with
And I'm
have Ella
never saying it as an
Purnell,
insult. I want to
Fallout.
make that
Yeah.
clear. I am in
Mhm.
love with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Oh yeah, we're fans of Anya
Is-
Taylor-Joy on the cast.
Absolutely.
the big eyes, the high cheekbones. She's got a very model-esque face, you might
Peruvian
say.
princess.
Mhm.
Someone
Our
else
Fallout girl, Lucy Purnell. Yeah,
Yeah,
we love her
Lucy.
too.
eyes are-
Ella Purnell,
Ella
Yeah.
Purnell. thank
extremely
you.
large
Lucy.
eyes. Yes,
Lucy.
and that's the thing now. It's like, and I think humans
Emma Stone.
Oh
evolved,
wow.
to have large eyes so they could see predators better and that stuff. So maybe we're instinctively attracted to someone who can survive longer against predators. If you want to think about the
Fascinating.
biology of it all.
That's what I put in my
I don't know.
Tinder profile. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
interested in those who can survive longer against predators.
I have very good threat detection abilities.
Do you mean the aliens?
Well, they're humans
But do
taking
you
us to the
guys-
penguin zoo.
let me ask you this: do you guys like Anya Taylor-Joy as an actress? What's your opinion?
I thought it was very strange that she did not once ask Praetorian Jack to play chess with her.
Oh yeah, or for a cheeseburger.
I would say I've liked a lot of projects she's done, like the chess show. I'm on record as saying I was a big fan of the chess
Queen's
show.
Gambit. Yeah, I like that. Show.
You got
Queen's
us into
Gambit.
it. You texted that
it's
it
an
is like an anime, and I was like, sold.
Chess the anime. That's right.
chess
Yeah,
anime.
the big eyes and everything.
Yes.
That's right.
That's my...
Obviously, the Vivitch, kind of her breakout role, the witch.
Yes, I've been a fan of her butt forever. That's seeing that butt in Vivitch.
Do you want to live
what can you say?
Yeah.
New Mutants, I love it.
New Mutants.
Magic, mid. No, but I like the menu. I like Anya Taylor-Joy. Yeah,
menu,
and I was,
her and Nux hanging out, right?
Mike loves
exactly.
the menu.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful.
Menu is okay to me.
That's fine.
I've seen some people say like she has a face. She doesn't, which is weird because her breakout hit was a period piece, but she has a face that looks like that they can't believe that it has never seen an iPhone. Basically, like she.
Oh right, cell phone.
They can't take her serious in a period piece, which is weird.
And you're saying Emma, of course, the Jane Austen adaptation.
I have not seen that.
Wow, no. Nice
but that was her period piece breakout, right? Or you're saying
the
witch was the breakout,
but
the other.
Sure.
So some people say, "Oh, she just looks like she's from modern times," so I can't take her seriously.
I liked her in Last Night in Soho. That's like the 70s, show, but
Yeah, I think the more
piece.
things I see in her, I'm like, yeah, she has range. She can do different things. And you were
the
even
Norseman
skeptical.
She was really good in too.
Yeah, the Norseman.
Right. Yeah.
But Mike, you were kind of skeptical of her before seeing this. Of like, you thought, Kaya Scodelario might be a better choice or something like that.
I did pitch Kaya Scodelario from the Pirates would be a good choice for Furiosa, just because the eye to face ratio, respectfully, is more similar to Charlize Theron. It looks like a completely different person. I think she's doing a good job with the performance, but it's just Charlize is big shoes to fill, and they don't have that similar facial structure. Objectively,
I mean, Charlize has a more rounder face, whereas Anya has a very thinner face, big eyes, high cheekbones.
And again, whatever, suspend disbelief, but it's hard for me. I love Furiosa so much in Charlize Theron that it's hard.
It's true. And Mike, you were upfront by the fact you did say when you recommended Kaya Scodelario, it was because she's your treasure.
She's my treasure. That's right. Right.
Jeffrey Rush,
desert treasure.
Australian.
That's right.
But no, I think she's doing a good job.
I think, I mean, physically, like she.
Well, we're not going to talk about her for an hour, so put that in your backseat, Jake.
But like you're saying, with the overtime, I don't know how they do it, but they sort of age this girl up to the point where when it does transition to Anya, it feels so seamless because it's like she looks so much like young Anya, this other girl, because of the deepfake tech and stuff, that when they make the switch, I'm like, it looks like the same actress aged over time. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And so they're spending a lot of years of her childhood, and she ends up with a Morton Joe. Rictus is being weird, so she makes a wig and runs away and tries to be a boy. I think he's just man-child, but that scene was weird to me. When Rictus...
Why did she try to make the wig, Mike?
Because he's playing with her hair.
Just a moron.
I think he was
he's
trying
just a moron.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he was trying.
He has like baby dolls and stuff. He's just like a big baby.
Right.
He got baby brains.
Yeah, he got baby.
Well, originally Morton Joe wanted her possibly to be one of his breeding wives.
If you're a full life when you get older, maybe we could have an heir kind of thing. Yeah.
Can I also just ask a question real quick? And I know it's more of a Fury Road question. Maybe we'll be talking more specifically about Fury Road later. But in Morton Joe's quest to have a perfect child, yes, Rictus has baby brains, but he's like a big, like strong, muscly, handsome dude. What is that breathing thing that he wears? Is he like fucked up? Is he messed up?
Basically, the implication is that because genetic mutations are so common now in this post-apocalyptic world, it's hard to have a baby that's like a normal human. So
I think in Morton Joe's just got like nuclear sperm. Like I think he's like
it's a him problem.
Yeah. But like all his babies are fucked up. But like in Fury Road, he has Rictus Erectus, who's big and strong but dumb, and he has Corpus Colossus, who's like, disfigured,
fairly smart, but
is smart.
What is there more? But what is the breathing thing, Jacob? Is there more going on?
I don't know.
Rictus?
It
what
has
is
again.
That thing?
We had 2 hours and 45 minutes to find out, and he didn't tell us. But I guess he has some type of respiratory issue, like that. Whatever.
But then Scrotus is also just kind of an idiot too.
Well, he's just like he is like a mutant. He's like fucked up, right?
Yeah, he does look kind of
Yeah.
mutated a little bit, but
But like everybody is, like in Immortan Joe's, like the people eater, like
right.
all these people.
Well, I
have,
think
like,
he's a mutant because he's eating people. I think that's like I think he's got some like
Well, you gotta
very
eat people.
specific stuff going
Yeah,
on.
he's got a big foot deformity, like an elephant man foot. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
But so that's
But
Furiosa.
sepsis or something.
Yeah.
in Fury Road, what's so striking about Furiosa is that she's a woman and she's in this position of power within Immortan Joe's army, which is obviously very like sexist, masculine
very
society. If you're a
matriarch.
woman in this
Patriarch.
post-apocalypse, your options are pretty limited. Like you're either going to be Immortan Joe's wife or a milker. There's not really a place for you in the society, right? But
He's
somehow
seemingly specifically the general of something called the War Boys. Like that's how masculine it is, Jacob.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he basically doesn't even see women as people, right? His wives are his property.
No, it's
You're my
property.
property.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the reason she's so
And so for
valuable is
her
because she's a
to-
full life. It's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
a not deformed person? Yes,
Right.
that's value. I wish to own it.
And for her to reach this position of power within this army is like impressive in itself, where she obviously hid her gender for a long time, pretending to be like this mute boy who wore a
Worked in the
like a leather
mechanics. What
hat.
do they call them?
Yeah.
The black thumbs? Is that
the
what
black
the mechanics
thumbs.
are called?
Yeah.
Which that's a cool thing, but I have an issue with this too because she runs away, and then Immortan Joe's never like, hey, where's that asset? Where's my asset for 10 years?
Well, the thing is, like,
Hey,
they're not-
she couldn't talk. This boy can't talk. Maybe.
Yeah, this boy that
God.
shows up that looks a lot like her has big
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah,
But
that's like.
I kind of just chalk it up to like these guys, they're just not that smart, right?
Well, but
They got a lot
Jacob,
going on.
Yeah.
you're saying they're all not that smart. Specifically, the guy who's not smart, we do have one moment where he sort of seems like he's going to check and follow up on the star tattoo, which we haven't mentioned, is the thing that Furiosa has made to track her way back to the green place, right?
Right.
She does it
But we
herself.
really don't follow
yeah.
up on that because we lose it. We lose her arm, obviously.
Well,
Yeah.
she can cover it with like a sleeve, I would assume.
Right, sure.
But, you know,
And that's why
there's-
she kind of wears that leather hat to hide
her
that
hair.
she's a woman, basically, and she's
But
mute.
just it's like but is she again? She's banking on the odds that nobody's ever going to point at her. She gets the job of
Essentially,
gate
yeah.
master.
She
at
becomes
some
a
point.
lever.
Well,
later,
sure.
Yeah.
And we do get to see, yes, it is addressed with, why are
That
you
scene
pee
of, like,
shy?
yeah, she's got to hide her
Very
piss.
strange.
Yeah, Mulan.
But Jacob, again, whatever the power structure of the world of this is, she's banking on the fact that nobody ever points at her as like, guess what? You're a war boy now. We're gonna paint you white, shave you. You
Right?
know, like
She-
you're not a boy. You know,
She impresses them with her machine knowledge as a black thumb, and they're like,
Okay.
okay, we're gonna make you
You're
the
more
person who
valuable
goes
here.
under the car. I
she
guess.
learns. Jacob, you're so
Yeah.
right. That's a perfect, because we
Yeah.
reflect this later with the history man when he says, "Become valuable" to her in the cage. Right? She does learn the
Yeah.
importance of
Yeah.
a job. You're 100% right, dude. Yeah.
Becoming
Right.
valuable and he'll take care of you. Yeah, that's his lesson
Yeah.
when she's with Dementis.
so we
yeah,
meet
that's a good point.
Praetorian Jack,
That's right.
who's like the one.
This is
Truckman
all I
Jack.
wanna
I love
talk about.
Truckman Jack.
Yeah.
Guys, okay, Mike, what do you think of this character? Our Mad Max stand-in, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
We
closest.
had
to
no
Mad
idea
Max,
that this guy was even in this movie. I
Well,
like Truckman Jack a lot.
He's
I didn't
very
watch
cool.
a ton of
Fun
trailers.
fact,
Yeah.
yeah, he wasn't super advertised in the marketing. He was originally going to be played by Yahya Abdul Mateen, who
Oh,
had to drop out due to a scheduling conflict. If you remember him, he was in Candyman
Black
reboot,
Manta.
Yes. Yes.
Black
okay.
Mantis, yeah. So he's been in a bunch of stuff. So it was originally going to be that guy. He had to drop
Hmm.
out due to a scheduling conflict. So they got this other guy, Tom
Brad
Burke.
Max.
who
Brad-
is this guy? Who is Tom Burke, Jacob?
Tom
Do we-
Burke,
do we
I don't
him?
know him too well. I think he's an Australian actor. But he kind of had to fill in last minute, and then it turned out to be really good casting because he
Boy.
kind of nailed his part. Yeah.
Here's my
He's
big
English.
argument for this entire movie. Mike. He didn't sound Australian, so I do
Yeah.
believe that he's English. Is this guy the luckiest human being who has ever existed in the history of the world? He is, for some reason, the most respected man on the planet, to the point where multiple times in the War Council, the people leader says, "Where's Jack? Where's
Yeah.
Jack? What's Jack up to?"
Mhm.
Again, you gotta
Everybody-
make yourself valuable so you don't become just
but
a war
multiple
boy.
times they say, "Who's the man in charge?" And he says to Juventus, "Me. You could talk to me." He's affable. He's kind. He meets
He's
a
got
smoke show
charisma.
mute who reveals to herself to say, I am from a paradise where I will take you with me. And he's like, that sounds great.
Well, he has
sounds
the moment
great.
where
That's incredible.
to
Yeah,
jump-
I love that.
jumping ahead a little bit, but basically there's a whole action scene where they lose the whole crew on the rig except for the two of them. Then it's revealed to him that she's a girl. She tries to hijack the truck from him to go back to the green place. He kind of dumps her out of the car. Then there's that beat where she's like looking around like, what am I going to do next? He comes back and is like, look, I'll take you under my wing and basically making my protege teach you how to survive in the wasteland.
Teach
and
you-
then you'll be able to go wherever
I
you
will
want to
teach
go.
you road war. You
Road
know
war.
nothing of road war.
become a
He
road
is
warrior.
Max. He is a road warrior.
Yeah.
I loved this guy.
And we've
I
never-
And
loved
somehow he's
this
like the
guy.
one
I'll teach you
decent
how to road
person
war, yeah.
that lives
My
in the
parents were
Citadel.
heroes. They were military. I
Yeah.
wanted a cause too, and you're my cause. And he's like stitching her up. He's like perfect. He's the perfect boyfriend in every way. I loved this guy. He's
Yeah.
incredible.
But famously, he's like the guy that has had the most successful runs as a driver of a war rig, right?
Mhm.
So Morton Joe respects him because of that.
Yep.
But again, he's I think he's pragmatic because he realizes like he's not going to survive on his own, so he's got to get in good with a community, and he has a position of power within this community now. So he's living pretty good for
Yeah,
what
I just
his
drive
options
truck
are.
good and they chill. Like I'm truck
Yeah.
man Jack, baby.
The we have had these great title cards every time a fortress of the wasteland is shown. The
Yes.
Citadel, the Bullet Farm, Gastown. We'll talk about them in a little bit.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
Jacob, we get the offhand line from Jack. Oh, you think you'd do better at the Bullet Farm? Trust me, a slave's life isn't great or something. He says like that. You get a moment of like, Jack has had it fucking hard, and Mike, you're right. Learn something valuable. He knows, make
Yeah.
yourself valuable, which is like, this whole movie is about people having jobs in the apocalypse. It's so strange.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Because the other
Yeah.
option is to live like Mad Max, where you're like a lone wanderer, but
Yeah.
he's like eating dog food and like lizards because that's all there is out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a
And
hard
laughing.
life.
We'll talk about it, but you hear him laughing to himself as he's eating out of the can.
Yeah.
I mean, he is
Mhm.
insane.
But like
You need people to survive.
that's the only other option. So to live in the Citadel, where you have water, you have fresh food, you have mother's milk, everyone's favorite.
Mother's milk.
Yeah.
It's a hard life. So if you can live in a community like that, at least you have a better
new way.
quality of life. Yeah.
Right. I mean, even people are willing to live below it, then go to Bullet Farm, like the beggars and stuff. It's like I'd rather be
Yeah.
close to the Citadel because those other places are fucking crazy. Like that's implied
Right.
that.
The
Right.
maggotters.
Oh man, yeah. Dude. So I want to get there. Yeah. So we see her age up and she meets Truckman Jack, and like this is my favorite part of the entire movie is the stowaway chapter when we have one of the rogue motorcycle gangs is like attacking the war rig. This is like the best stuff.
So I
Like,
wanna-
it's so good.
Yeah, I want to talk about this too. Like we're jumping ahead a little bit, but
Yeah.
I was telling Colin there's a character called the Octo God. And this is something that I love where there's just these random characters that
Harley and
Jordan Miller
Davidson are in
names.
this.
yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Mr. Harley, Mr. Davison.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But one of the warlords that like joins the horde of Dementis is Octo God. And we see just in the background, this isn't like outright stated, but this is great like environmental storytelling kind of where you remember the scene where Dementis they do a Trojan horse thing to get into Gastown where they
Yep.
take over a war rig, make it look like there's war boys, so they kind of cover themselves in this
That's
white
right.
goo
Yeah,
and
they meet
stuff,
that war
and then-
boy.
Yeah. So there's that scene where Dementis is like, take off your helmet. I'm going to spread this stuff on you. And this guy's like, I only answer to the Octo God. And then it cuts to a guy we've never seen before. And he's like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay. That's the Octo God.
With his
And
black
then-
horns, like he looks cool
Yeah.
as hell.
He looks
Yeah.
cool as hell.
Yeah.
And then we see, so they use this war rig to get into Gastown, but it's not realistic enough. So then Dementis is like, do it for real. Start killing these guys that are playing the war boys on the war rig. And the Octogod's like, Dementis, you scum, if you remember that.
Mhm.
So we see
Kills some of
Octogod's
his
not happy
boys.
with Dementis. And then later, when these rogue people attack the war rig that Jack is on,
Mhm.
there's a little bit of exposition where he says, is this Dementis's people? He says, no, it's
Yeah.
some rogues that broke off from him. And it's the Octogod. So we can infer that the Octogod got mad because of that stunt,
Yeah.
left Humongous's or Dementus's horde
Yes.
and became a rogue, group, and then attacked this Warwick, and then we see the Octogod, and then he dies from the Bobby Knocker.
The
right?
Bobby,
He's
he's got a
also the Bobby
sick
Knocker.
ass kite of an octopus, this black.
Yeah,
That's
it's
why
got, like,
he's
the
called the
octo-
Octogod. It's awesome.
Yeah. So it all
Yeah.
makes sense, but it's all just in the background. So I love that.
Yeah. And that dispute in the War Boys with the paint, like, yeah, that's all really good stuff. And then
Yeah.
this sequence with a lot of it's like paragliding and stuff, like
Yes.
very inventive.
This scene
Haven't
I
seen
think
it
can
before in the
rival.
franchise.
This can rival anything that's in Fury Road in terms of the stunts and the action. This
Anya underneath the
sequence,
truck,
right?
this entire thing.
Yeah.
Short hose with clamps. Yeah, this entire thing.
We see more about how the war boys run their rig and stuff with like the poles going
Piss
back
boys.
and forth. We got the piss boys. We got the little piss boy in the back.
Piss boy.
We got the Bobby Knocker.
Piss boy, my engine is thirsty. Piss boy.
Drink the piss. He actually like
Drink,
says that to the
drink
engine.
all my piss, he says. Earlier, there's a moment where a guy is lit on fire. He has bottles all over him. He pulls a red bottle out, pours all over him, and I thought, that's weird. I wonder what that guy's story is. And 2 minutes later, Jack goes, piss boy.
Which is another great detail.
And that's where
that
these
they
movies
use
are
piss
incredible.
to cool
Yeah.
the engines, because you wouldn't use water because water is so scarce.
Valuable.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a waste of water. So you got to use piss. What else are you going to use piss for?
And that's why she pisses into a jar, like when she gets, it's like, we're saving it up for the war rig. Don't worry, I'll give you your
Yeah.
jar. Just leave me alone.
Why so shy? It's just piss.
Yeah.
Implying they
Yeah.
do get shy about like pooping in front of each other.
Right.
She used to be like, I gotta go poop. I'll see you.
I do want to shout out the Bobby Knocker war boy. His name is
Right.
Quaden Bayless.
Yeah,
I
he's a real
guess-
person.
Yeah, there's like a whole story.
He's a
where he
real
was, like,
person. He
Yeah.
is.
But he was
yes.
bullied. I believe he was bullied for how he looks
Sure.
by
Yeah.
people because he's a young kid. And George Miller like saw that and was like, "You can be in my movie. You can be a piss boy."
Yeah, a war
George Miller
boy.
is someone who has used disabilities in almost every film he's ever made, right? Like, again,
Absolutely.
the doctorness of
And
it all
positive
is just
portrayals
so
of
interesting.
disabilities where
Yeah.
these are characters that have disabilities, but it doesn't hold them back necessarily. Like they learn to live with it. Even Furiosa with her missing arm is disabled, right?
You're right.
I mean, Blaster, like
Yeah.
it's a common theme for him. So it's cool that there was like a positive story out of bullying. Don't bully. So I'm glad that this kid
But
got to
it's-
be in a Mad Max movie and take photos with Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
how cool
Yeah.
is that?
Very sad when that guy dies though, because
Yeah,
I was
because he
like,
didn't even
I
get
like
to turn
this
on the
kid.
Bobby Knocker. He never
Yeah,
got
it's
to do
like,
it.
He's a little dummy. I wasn't sad when he died. He
But
was,
I like
he
when he's
was
spraying his
blowing it.
hand,
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he's just having fun
The minute
back
he was
there.
doing that, I was like, "You're messing around. Pay attention."
sitting on the cabbages. Like, what else? am
Yeah,
I
get
gonna
off
do?
those potatoes, you silly butt.
Yeah, yeah.
We have this whole action scene. Yeah, the paragliding is so cool. Like we see more
Throwing
details of
bombs
how like a party would attack a war rig and how the war rig would defend itself. Like it's all.
I love the
super
panels
cool.
that flip down where they can have platform to stand on. I like that it's
Yeah.
shiny and chrome. It's like a show of power for Joe to have this chrome vehicle.
That was a story etched into
Yeah.
the side of it too, Mike. It's
Mm.
very cool.
It's very cool.
And just that the war boys are like pretty good at their job.
They're
and that they
good.
know how to like defend the war rig, and they're really.
They have that
obviously
one who's
sacrificed
like,
their
who
life.
like is like, gather around. We're gonna learn how to build an engine today, and they're all like,
Yeah.
okay. I was kind of like, oh, it's nice that they learn a skill and a trade.
yeah, they're just in trade school. Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
in contrast to Dementus's horde, like they're so much more structured. They're like a military, and so it's no wonder when there's like a 40-day war that Dementus gets like completely owned by this very strict and regimented military, right?
Yeah. And you do see like hints of stuff too. Like when we see Octogod chilling, it's like, what's that propeller on his motorcycle for? And it's like an hour
Yeah.
later, they're like, oh, that's what that propeller was for.
Can
Like,
fly.
right.
They fly
okay.
now.
Mike,
They
the
fly now.
propellers.
Now I hate it. That's funny.
They're pulling basically like lawnmower engines, and they have those propellers revealed. That is so cool, dude.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
paraglide. This is the best use of they fly now. It's actually cool.
Yeah.
you
But again,
know?
I think this scene can rival anything that's in Fury Road.
I agree.
And then when we see the Bobby Knocker, which is these like basically spiked balls on chains on the back of the war rig, and it turns it on, and they go in a circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they use that to kill the Octogod. It's like that's really
It like
smart. And they have
pulls him
thing
into
that
it
pulls in.
slowly.
Yeah. They have a
Yeah.
harpoon.
Piece of a subtle storytelling I just kind of want to go back to real quick. We jumped over all the stuff, and we don't have to talk about all this, but we jumped
Yeah.
over Dementus becoming Lord of Gastown, what that
Yes.
means, this whole arrangement back and forth, right? We see the original ruler of Gastown. He's doing this beautiful mural up
Yeah.
in his room or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Does he say at one point that Immortan Joe is his brother? Does he say brother?
He says brother,
He says brother.
That could mean he's his actual brother,
but
or
he's
just like a
hold him up.
or
Yeah,
just a
maybe
friend.
just an agreement. Do you think the People Eater is his brother? Do you think they're all family, Jacob? The Bullet Farmer,
be.
all of them? No,
Obviously, we
Say
know
brothers in Fury
yeah.
Road. It could be, but it could also just be a.
Bullet Farmer is mad. He says all this for a family squabble in Fury
Right.
Road. Yeah,
Mhm.
it
Fury
seems
Road,
like
we
he's
know that,
above it or outside of it. So
the people in Fury Road, the People Farmer now is running Gastown. The Bullet Farmer is running Bullet Farm. Strangely enough, by the way, the guy that plays the People Eater, and this is crazy. I don't know if you guys know this. He's the former Prime Minister of Australia.
that is not true.
That's absolutely
No.
true.
That is the most insane thing I've ever
That guy
heard.
Australia
with
is the
chains
greatest
on his
country.
nipples. Yeah, that's
Wow.
yeah.
He has a thing directly on his dick, the exposed nipples, like you're saying. What is the moment that he does where Chris Hemsworth has the crossbow at the back of the guy's head? The People Eater says, "You're not going to do it," and he like pulls his Chris Hemsworth nipple rings off. What was that? And then he shoots the bow. What
Yeah.
happens in that moment?
Well, it feels like
Because
I
Chris
don't know.
Hemsworth says, "Ooh, I got so excited," and there's blood everywhere from his nipples.
Yeah, he pulls like his piercings out of his nipples.
What was
It's
the
not a
thing he
pierced
was
nipple.
programming? I didn't understand any of that.
That was so. Basically, he was like,
Some
"I'm
type
gonna
of
blow
bomb?
up Gastown, right? If
With
you
a
don't do this."
bomb
And
is
I'm the
what
only
it
one who
was?
has the code.
what's
right?
implied. Whether or not
Yeah.
they really built one or not,
Okay.
who knows?
That seemed very Looney Tunes to me all of a sudden. I was
It's
like,
like, oh,
what
I
is
forgot the
this?
numbers now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the device
Um,
where you just hold back the crossbow. It's like my arm's getting
Yeah.
kind of tired. Maybe negotiate. Like that's
Whoops.
kind of cool. Yeah. Rip.
So he takes over Gastown using that
Yeah.
Trojan horse scene. Also, I want to jump back a little bit
Yeah.
to like she first meets Dementis. He obviously her mom tries to save her, and kind of does save her for a minute. They kind of ride away on a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
Someone shoots the back of the motorcycle. It kind of blows up the gas tank. She's burning. Her
Yo.
mom is on fire. taking
Yeah.
But
off
she
the
said
coat and
that there
stuff.
to do that, it seemed like.
Maybe, I don't know. I think because it just hit the gas tank on the back of the motorcycle.
Okay.
But
But
her
she
mom
keeps
it just
driving
shows her
on
mom is
fire.
like really
Yeah, that
good
was-
at doing stuff, but still fails in the end because she's outnumbered. He catches her mom, crucifies her, makes her watch,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the tears of joy and tears of sorrow kind of. He's like,
Right.
eating her tears.
Yep.
And that's when we get that crazy shot of her eye, which I love this shot. You see her mom crucified in the reflection of her eyeball,
Yeah.
super close up. Crazy
Wow.
shot.
Yeah.
I maybe missed that. That's interesting.
You missed that
Wow.
shot? Oh my
In
god.
IMAX.
Incredible
that was
shot.
great.
Yeah, damn, I
Yeah.
can't even imagine. And Mike is like being thrown in the eye.
Yeah, There's the seat heat has been turned on as they're burning her alive or whatever.
Yeah, but she blinks and a fan is blowing you away. You're like, ah.
They had dust
So-
effects too. They would shoot smoke if there was dust on the screen from like a burnout.
That's,
Oh,
and
that's
there's so
crazy.
many sandstorms in this. That's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
neat.
Wow.
So basically she hates him because he killed his mom, her mom, obviously.
My
but
childhood, my
he-
mother, I want them back.
Yeah. I want them back.
I want them
But-
back.
She becomes his daughter, his adopted daughter, little D,
Mhm.
he calls her.
Little D.
That's right.
Little D,
This is
my little
daughter,
D.
Little D.
You can see
Uh,
it. She's
can
fair.
hold
She's
this
not like
teddy
you're
bear.
freaks. Look at your fucking sons. You fucking freak sons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we didn't
that's
talk
true.
about. So he wants to find the green place, a place of abundance, as he's heard. But along the way, he meets a war boy who's kind of been stranded, and basically gets distracted by going to the Citadel. So he forgets about the green place, and that's kind
Well,
of why
he
he
thinks
doesn't
the
end up in
Citadel is the
place.
green place. I think
Yes.
it's implied.
Oh,
Is
that
it a
could be
place of
better, too.
abundance? It's got a lot
Yeah,
of stuff,
water,
and he's
food.
like,
Yeah.
sounds good. Yeah.
He is stupid.
And
it's
so
great.
we didn't
Yeah.
talk about the first meeting
Yes.
of Dementis and Immortan Joe.
Yeah.
He rides up with his horde of motorcycles and is like, I want you to overthrow your leaders.
Throw your leaders down here. Throw your leaders down here.
I'll
taking
give
over.
whatever you
Just
have. I'll
see-
give you a double. You'll have a life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can kind of see how he's been able to recruit so many people into his horde, because and we also have that scene where they ride down some people. He ties the leader up to like 5 different bikes and is like,
Oh
all
yeah.
right,
Ready?
fight for the opportunity
There's
to
20
pull
of
this,
5 bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And that one
if you
lady
came to me
becomes a
friendship, I
feature
would
in
have
his
accepted
army.
you.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, just
he-
to talk about that lady with the fucked up face real quick.
Yeah.
This is another double casting, Jacob. She is also the woman who plays the Many Mothers, the Woman of Seeds, who, of course, becomes the old woman sniper in Fury Road. Guys, that is Chris Hemsworth's wife.
Right,
What?
Elsa Pataki. Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Whoa. That's
She plays
fun.
one of the Volvolini and one of the...
The Vuvalini. I am one of the Many Mothers' daughters.
Yeah.
I am Furiosa. Mary Jabasi's daughter.
Swaddle Dog. Shout out to Swaddle Dog.
So, I am a clan Swaddle Dog. To
You
Mike,
know?
when I watched Fury Road recently and she said that, I screamed. I was like, what?
It's a good clan
But
to
it's
grow
so
up
sad
in.
to know that the green place in like the 17 years that she's gone, like turned
Yeah.
into like
It's become
that
Crow
creepy
Village.
place with the crows. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense now why she recognizes the radio tower. Because again, they had electricity. They had
Yeah.
stuff.
Damn,
Yeah.
you're right.
Um,
But then this meeting, though, yeah, when he's throw down your leaders
Yeah.
and Joe just pick anyone, he's like, "Oh, my Smeg will pick him." He's like, I like that I know what a
The-
Smeg is
well,
now.
the Smeg, yeah.
And what if I love that. And
Colin,
what if I don't
you would
pick?
definitely be a Smeg to someone in the
Then you won't
post-apocalyptic
get your
world.
answer.
Yeah,
Oh.
Very
so
curious.
basically showing that any of the war boys will literally die for Morton Joe because they've been so brainwashed kind of by this
There are
cult. that
250 war boys here, all willing to
Every
do
one
the
of them.
same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You are awaited.
Waited. Yeah, bro, that's sick.
because they're raised in this culture of like you live for a Morton Joe, you die
It's
for
good
a
to
Morton
die.
Joe,
Death
and you
is
were-
great. You
were
want out
awaited
of
in
this
the
whole
halls of
system.
Valhalla.
Valhalla. Mm-hmm. You're gonna die
Um,
historic on the Fury Road, but yeah, they just get dooskied and then try to steal
Yeah, they
Furiosa,
get
pull her into the
dooskied.
cave.
History man, what is Valhalla?
Mhm.
And so basically, Morton Joe's like, "Yeah, we're gonna kill you all now," and so they start throwing their boomstick things at them, and basically
when-
we see the first time that like Dementus like overestimates like his power and his
Mhm.
authority, and is like, "I'm gonna come in here and easily like take over this place and like have them throw down their leaders," and like, "No, like you're getting dooskied."
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And then he's like, "Shit, Plan B. Let me steal Gastown, even if I have to kill some of my own crew."
Yeah,
That's creating problems. And seeing them in Gastown just a little bit ahead, where he's like, "If you want to get out of here, follow me," and he has no control over the place whatsoever.
No.
Like, drive around here, get to the
the whole movie is
Probably
trying
not
to
a good idea to
consolidate
give you
power.
gas. You should just
Yeah.
go. Just go.
Yeah, no, just
Like
get
they
out
show
of
up
here.
to Gastown and like people are like actively revolting and stuff, and he's like not able to control people.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like that he's just not in control. Yeah, he's not who he thinks he is. He just
Yeah,
Bad
he
leader.
he's like a dog chasing a car. He wouldn't know what to do if he caught it, and he catches it, and he's
Right.
like, "I had no plan."
he's like if the Joker
It's a Joker.
tried to lead a community, like it wouldn't.
Like it's your
end
friend
well.
that's like, "Yeah, I could definitely take him." It's like, no, you can't.
But
Let's
you know what?
sit
But
down.
so, of recent performances of superhero stars who channeled the Joker in other properties, say a Jason Momoa in The Fast and the Furious,
Sure.
I'll take this 1,000 times over because I think
Mhm.
there's just such strong, interesting writing behind him, opposed to the weird chaos improv that I think
No.
Jason
Yeah.
Momoa did.
I can't remember any of his lines verbatim, but he just has some wild sayings like that's a precocious type of. It's like he just has a weird vocabulary that he's spitting out, and it's
Yeah.
like it's really nice. And the era,
I like
The
when they-
obsession with titles.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm known as Dementus, ruler of Gastown now. But I do like when he
Mhm.
meets the random war boy that leads him back to the Citadel, and he's like, "I hear it's a place of abundance," and the war boy's like, "What's abundance?" And they have to explain what that word means, and
it's like a lot of
They
shit.
have dressed him up. They put clothes on him when he's giving the speech to Morton Joe, and they're like, and he's going to help us overthrow you. And the war boy looks confused by it. And at the end of the day, he helps attack Dementus's crew
Yeah.
because he's like, no, this is what I love. Yeah.
Mhm.
when they first show up, he's like, "Is this Valhalla?" Because he has like an arrow in his head, so he's like
Yeah.
going to die probably.
What did you use? Sky clay. What does
Sky
it call?
blood?
Sky chalk.
Sky
Sky
blood.
blood, Mike. Sky
Yeah,
blood.
and that's
I love
how we
what they
get
call flare.
Dementus the
flare
Red.
gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sky blood.
Shoot
That's
it in
how
the
I
ground.
called you to me. Sky blood. Oh,
Kind of reminds
okay.
me of the Lost Boys in Beyond Thunderdome have like their own language, like the Tomorrow Morrow Land. We're going to the
Yeah.
Tomorrow
There'll
Morrow
be
Captain
no
Land.
leaving,
Walker.
and there'll be no knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
Yeah,
knowing
it's
and the
those.
doing.
Yeah.
the knowing,
boy.
the doing. Yeah, I just
And here's the
watched that.
thing. When I'm saying like I don't like this movie, and I'm still saying I like the Mad Max franchise, and it's not that I don't like this movie. I'm
Yeah.
maybe where Mike is, where I'm more towards neutral or whatever. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like I think it's like a Thunderdome disaster. Like, there is nothing disastrous to me about this film.
Right.
It's just lightning can't strike twice. In a world where you've seen Fury Road, it's hard to not
Yeah.
compare it. And that's the thing. Like, this is
Yeah.
better than
Well,
most movies, as I said, but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm
that's
having a
kind of
hard
what I'm
time
saying. Like, I don't
It also
think
just kind of feels dull.
at times. I love it
I
enough to
kinda-
do with fan edit. I will do that. I love it enough to try to trim it. I'll try to trim it down
I-
for our private viewings.
yeah. For me, like, I knew it was never going to surpass Fury Road,
Right.
and I knew it's not Fury Road 2. Like, it's doing something different, so I kind of accept that. But again, I think it's my only question is it better to me or not than the Road Warrior? Would I put it second or third in my favorite Mad Max movies? I'm not sure exactly.
I'm working on my rankings as we discuss this. So maybe during wrap up, I'll kind of lay out where I'm at.
Yeah. But I already know I like it better than Thunderdome and Mad Max 1. So it's
Interesting.
definitely top 3 for me. The only question
Again, this is not a
top 2.
bad movie. It's just
No.
it's a
And there's so
Yeah.
many moments I like, and I agree that it could be trimmed down, but this is what
This
George
whole-
Miller wanted to do.
This whole run with Jack, I love. He's a
Yes.
character
Yes.
that feels interesting. It again feels grounded. Again, here's a complaint. Some stuff like this, and this is like, again, me insulting a master. I'm not trying to insult George Miller. Some of this feels like response to criticism, where you go like, in Fury Road, why does Furiosa trust Mad Max so quickly? Well, I'll tell you exactly why. She was in love with a guy who looked exactly like him and acted like him in her past. And you're like,
Same
okay,
jacket.
fine.
Well,
Well,
she doesn't
isn't the
trust him
plot of
that
Fury
quickly.
Road kind of just that it's like one big car chase where they go in one direction and come back? Well, fine. My next movie will be a sprawling epic where the plot is a spider's web that is so
Generational.
large you can't even. Yes, it's like generational is like a perfect word for it, Mike. It's like it's so large.
But I don't
It's an
necessarily
odyssey.
agree that it's a response to criticism. I just think there are two different kind of movies that he wanted to make. Like he wanted
Yeah.
to make the formal experiment of could I make a movie that's one long car chase essentially. Whereas this movie, it's like, yeah, now I'm going to do this epic saga of Furiosa's whole life, basically.
And as I said, it's his notebook. He's like, I thought of so much cool stuff that I couldn't show you. So let me
Yeah.
show you all of that cool stuff. Like there's
Again, he was writing it at the same
time.
time. Like this was all background that he was writing while he was making Fury Road. He wanted to make this movie like right after Fury Road. That didn't end up happening. So yeah, I kind
It's
of
the
Fury Road was
appendices of
also
Fury Road.
So Fury Road was also a fever dream he had on an airplane ride. He did say one time when I came to the plot with that. So again, all of this is like, yes, all of our dreams are cool. I understand you want to tell me your whole dream. It is a very big dream.
Yeah.
I think
But
I don't know. I think a lot of criticism is people expecting it to be more like Fury Road when I don't think that's what he was going for in the first place. Even the action and the stunts are different. Like it feel differently paced. But if you
Yeah.
look at every Mad Max movie, no two Mad Max movies are the same. Each one is
Yes.
different in its own way, and they evolve. He takes certain things from them, like the war rig and everything in the car chase in Fury Road is very similar to the end of Road Warrior, where
Correct.
he's driving a truck. There's a big chase scene with a truck, so he's kind of reuses elements, but kind of remixes them.
No, I think that's fair. And like, I think the fight at the Bullet Farm is something I haven't seen where there's people on foot versus people in vehicles, and there's an excavator and a crane arm and like the war
Yeah.
rig. Like, I think that's an interesting sequence, and the sniping and all that. Like, there's cool
Definitely.
stuff in here. I wonder if it
Definitely.
stands on its own though. If you'd never seen Fury Road, could you
that's
just enjoy
interesting.
this?
I think it could stand on its own.
I think it might play better. I don't know.
I think the biggest mistake this movie makes is when they start showing clips of Fury Road at the end credits. I think that's the
I got up
dumbest
and
thing
left.
they
I
could
was
have done.
furious. I
Why?
didn't suffer that for a second.
To
I was like,
remind
how
you of a
dare you
superior
show Fury
film.
Road?
Well,
Not even. It's not. I just didn't want it to be. I was like, this doesn't. I don't need this to be
No.
the capper for this movie. Like,
I think it
that's
makes
so
sense though,
silly.
because Fury Road
But
is essentially an extended epilogue to this movie.
Just hit me credits. I don't need to see the scenes from Fury Road.
No, I
That's
agree,
all I'm
but
saying.
If you've
Yeah.
if you haven't seen Fury Road and you're seeing this for the first time, maybe that would help, and then you'd be like, "Oh, what's that movie? Maybe I'll go watch that."
Maybe I'll
Yeah,
watch this movie called Fury Road, which is
Maybe
what I
the
wanna
fourth
do-
movie of a franchise about who is this guy to this woman. And you're like, honey, I don't understand why I took you to Furiosa or why that was your first first Fury
Right.
Road
Well,
movie.
that's
We
the thing
shouldn't
is
have
that
done
I've never
this.
seen
Yeah.
Fury Road. Maybe this movie doesn't hit as hard. I
Yeah.
would say, because obviously I saw Fury Road like a day before I went and saw this movie,
Yeah.
so it's still fresh in my mind. In the future, I'll watch this movie first and then watch Fury Road and see how they work together, because that's the proper order.
Give it a couple
If
of
that
years.
will make
yeah.
Fury Road better or worse, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we have been jumping around. I think we're kind of getting to a point of where we're nearing thoughts.
Well-
but like, I want to like talk about. I don't know, Jacob, if there's anything specific, but at least I do
Hit
want
your
to
favorites.
highlight.
Everything you got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention a little bit about the plot. So obviously,
Yeah.
Dementus takes over Gastown and kind of strong arms his way in. So he's like, okay, Immortan Joe has to take me seriously now. They make that deal. Then obviously Dementus, he's not happy with just Gastown. He's like, I want to, basically he wants it all.
Yeah.
So there's these three bases, right? Gastown, Bullet Farm, and the Citadel. So then he's like, okay, I'm going to call a meeting with Immortan Joe. Obviously, Immortan Joe knows he wants to like start a war, basically. He's not really falling for Dementus's tricks. Then he's like, okay, so Jack, go to Bullet Farm, collect every bullet you can find and stuff.
We're
We're
gonna
going to
fuck 'em
prepare
up.
for a war. Yeah.
Where's Jack? That really handsome guy who's great at his job, and I hear he's got a really cool girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, how are you? This
Yeah.
soft voiced guy who looks like Mad Max. Hey, how are you guys? I'm right here. Oh,
Meanwhile,
Okay.
Yes.
Furiosa is now, like in a relationship with Jack, basically, and they're saying like, basically, I'm gonna escape at some point. We're gonna escape together and go to the Green Place. So they're kind of planning that, and they're planning it so that this trip to Bullet Town, like they're gonna leave and go to the Green Place, and they prepped it because remember they stop and they're like, all right, put the trucks in the
Put the bikes, some food in
bikes
here.
in the
You're
truck.
driving Pursuit. Yep.
Yeah, so they're planning ahead. They get to Bullet Farm and they realize Dementus has already taken over Bullet Farm and has laid basically a trap for them. So that's where you get that big Bullet Farm fight. It's all a trap, because Dementus wants to start a war. So they kind of get caught in the middle between Immortan Joe and Dementus when all they want to do is run away.
Yep, and Jack wants her to run away. She has the car on the outside of the gates in Bullet Town, but she cares about him
She
too
doesn't
much,
wanna
and she
leave
goes
without him.
back to save him. And she's successful, which you're like, thank God, because that was a crazy fight. And
they do get away for a minute, but then, of course, Dementus
is so
tracks them
determined.
down. Yeah.
He batters he rams down the door because he just can't wait. Like, yeah.
That's right. He has that crazy monster truck that can ride over anything.
because you got to remember, the Fury Road is one strip of blacktop that, yes, the war rig drives on, but otherwise it's all sand in the wasteland. So you need those
good
dune buggies,
tires,
Jacob.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like the number one thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's driving
And
over
here
the
we
dunes. But yeah.
And like Dementus's like generals and like close friends and stuff are like dying left and right, and he doesn't even care. Like he's just obsessed with like stopping this, this one car. That's
He
where we
hates
get
that he
the,
sees a couple in love. Truly,
Yeah.
is the reasoning that it is. Yeah.
and that's when we get the line that Colin and I have been quoting all the time. Where are they going so full of hope? There is no hope.
There is no hope. Yeah, so he
And
does
that's kind of his
catch
thesis is
You,
like,
for
how dare
me.
these people be happy and have hope? Like, don't you know there is no hope? Like, life sucks. Like, everything sucks now. Like, you gotta understand that. So, and
even when he
yeah.
catches them, like they flip the car and he just bashes the top of their car with a pipe, like just like out of I'm a mad person. I'm just mad.
Right.
Generally.
How dare you have hope?
They
in this
flipped the
life?
car. I want to say this real quick.
My heart is sinking in this moment of the film. I am
It
like
is.
feeling
And
affected.
here's why.
Truckman Jack.
Up to this
is too good
moment,
for this world.
Yeah.
there have been some teases where mentally I'll check in and go, oh, that's right, Furiosa's missing an arm. Is this what it's about to be? You know what I mean? Like several times
Right.
before this.
When did
The
she lose
really
the arm?
cool writing for this scene is Jack gets shot, and as you're grieving for that in that moment, you're like, oh no, Jack got hit. Boom, she gets mangled in the car tire. And you're like,
Yes.
oh
Yeah.
no, shit, this is the moment. And then they flip, and Mike, even though he's unconscious, when Dementus is poking at them with the thing and looks under, Jack
got a
unconscious,
live
you
one.
can see he's touching her. He's reaching for Furiosa, dude.
Yeah.
It sucks. It
It's so sad.
sucks.
Did
And
they
just
make
knowing the wasteland, it's like there's no way out, dude. You're fucked. It's so
No.
sad.
But this is the fucked up part. So they
Mm-hmm.
basically they take Jack, tie him to a back of like a motorcycle, make him run around, and they're like dragging him around, right? Basically slowly killing him.
Slow it fast. Slow it fast. A couple
Hey, get up.
times. Keep
Get
going.
up.
And they
Knock
tie
him down.
her.
Pick it up. Pick it
They
up.
tie Furiosa up to like a tow truck by her arm, so she's like hanging by her fucked up arm, and just forced to watch as they slowly torture this guy to death.
It releases his dogs at one point too, so he's getting
Yeah.
eaten alive by dogs,
C-
dragged behind a
we should say-
motorcycle.
I kind of thought bad CG dogs the whole time, unfortunately.
They're a little bit
I
in the
didn't notice it
distance.
too much.
There's a lot of dust,
Yeah.
so but fair. There is noticeable CG in this compared to Fury Road. Like it's more noticeable at times. Again, still better than
Yeah.
most other movies, but
The
But this
fire
is where we-
especially. Yeah.
yeah, but this scene is
So
horrific.
she's tied up watching this by her arm, and
Dementis
Dementis
is
is
just
not really paying attention to her, right? He's kind of like
He's having an existential crisis.
for like hours.
he's
He's just
kinda
sitting,
pouting,
looking
yeah.
away, just like
Yes.
And so while
processing.
no one's looking at her, she cuts off her own arm to escape, and
Mhm.
escapes on a bike, right? And then they're chasing her. And then what happens? She goes back to the Citadel.
it says, "I know where
I
Dementis
am
is."
Praetorian Furiosa.
Praetorian
Yeah.
Furiosa is like, yo,
Get
he's
up here.
tricking you guys.
The
He's
war
not what he
council
says.
says, yeah, what's going on? And she's like, no. Again, the people are just like, where's Jack? Which really made me laugh. They love
Yeah.
him so much. Me
Poor
too.
Jack.
In a world of
and
freaks,
he's-
the normal guy is also freakish to them, I guess. Like,
No, he's
he's
just,
one
he
of
seems
us.
so reliable, Mike. It's incredible.
He's like the one guy that's not like a fuck up son or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then so Dementis is like basically making it look like he's blowing up Gastown because he's trying to draw them out of the Citadel to go
Mhm.
defend Gastown, which is sort of a reference I feel like to Fury Road, because that's their whole plan in Fury Road. Or like Furiosa is like, we drew them out, so now we can go back to the Citadel before they get back right at the end.
Leave it
And Joe was
unguarded. She
like-
says multiple times here, which
Yeah.
you're right, was the plot. You're totally
and Joe
right.
was like,
She's
"They know
learned.
what's undefended. We got to go back." Like they've already
Yeah.
tried this before, so I like that.
So yeah, so she has to convince, because like Scrotus is like, no, we should go to Gastown now, blah blah blah. She's like, no, we have to stay here.
Mhm.
The warrior's plan.
It's my
Yeah.
plan.
So yeah, basically Dementis starts a big war, a 40-day war, right? And this was kind of the part where I'm like, oh, shit's about to go down. And
Yeah.
then this war is sort of told in voiceover, where they're like, yes,
It
then a
skipped
40 war.
over. Like
Uh-huh.
so
War
many
starts.
things in this movie where
Yeah.
instead I'm like, okay, we're watching a really long chunk of young Furiosa. Oh, okay, I guess this next part will be interesting. And then she grew up. I'm like, oh, okay. And
It
then we're
is-
at this point, and every war from the Napoleonic to this, none of them compared to the 40-day war of the Road War.
Mhm.
But
Right.
that's a story for another time, you
Yes,
might say. Where I'm
yes.
like, what?
It is
What are you
weird the
talking
things
about?
that he chooses to focus on. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe where the pacing issues comes in, where it's like, yeah, we'll spend time on certain details, but then we're going to brush over this whole 40-day
This is the
war.
moment she gets the robot arm. It's the thing I called out earlier. It's the weird paced thing where you said it's
Yeah.
chum jizz bucket or chum bucket or whatever you called him.
I have a car here.
And he
Jizz
fucking,
locker.
that's great. But then we get
Well-
this. But then it's the way
It's
that
over.
they
The movie's over.
But the way that they decide that part is done and that Dementis is like away from the war, I'm like,
It all
but
happens
what
so
happened?
fast. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, what is this?
But
Yeah.
if you fill in
agree.
the blanks, essentially what happened is
He
there's this
loses.
long drawn out war. Dementis is losing badly, but also the supplies of the Morton Joe's army have been like sort of depleted, including the vehicles and stuff. So that's why they're like, there's no cars here because they're all being used in the war. There's
Yeah.
this one car that has like 3 tires on it. She takes that out, goes to where Scrotus is, and they're like, oh, put this tire on this car. But then she steals.
Is that car from the game, Jacob? Is that also a thing, maybe?
I don't know. I don't remember. But that's Scrotus's car, because he wants a car to track down Dementis. Because basically, this is the very end of the war when his
Right.
army has been defeated. Now the only thing to do is kill Dementis, basically, and his like closest allies who are riding away on bikes.
How long is it's been 40 days, I guess.
40
Okay,
days.
yeah. I'm sorry.
she's
Yes, you're
not
right. It
been a
is.
part
That's
of
why
it.
it's called that. Yes.
It
Well,
is
40
weird
days
that
in
they
the
just
desert,
brushed
it's
over this,
Jesus.
'cause I thought there was about to be a big action scene, but maybe it's like it's better to use your imagination because no scene could accurately.
Well, that's the
portray-
lesson of the last scene of the movie, obviously.
Right, but
yes.
Yeah.
I have thoughts on this too, because like there's a world where you don't have to show a whole war, but she could be more active. And like, I fucking want Dementis, but instead she's just working on her arm for 40 days. She doesn't even
I
participate
guess.
until
Yeah,
the end.
I don't know.
Like, she should be. I want to be on the front lines
taking
because
her
I fucking
final
hate this
form
guy.
as Furiosa. She cuts her hair, puts her arm. Also, that arm that she just pulls off some junk and is like the perfectly robotic arm.
Right.
That was kind of like,
Yeah.
where did this arm come from that like works?
But it also has a weed whacker engine attached to it.
I love that thing when she starts the little motor.
Oh
just
yeah,
like
yeah,
cut
yeah.
it
The
Yeah.
out.
snip.
That's
stuff.
crazy.
Yeah.
She should have used that in Fury Road.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think she had an
Maybe she
upgraded
didn't
arm
have
at that
gas
point.
for it.
But I wanted her to participate in the hunt for Dementis and like yelling at the Morton
Yes.
show, like "fucking leave him for me, you fuck." Like I wanted her to be involved more.
Yeah. Well, because so basically his whole army is destroyed. Scrotus wants to go after him, and
Right.
but she steals Scrotus's car right at the very end to go
Right.
after him instead when she's not looking.
On day 40.
And-
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's chasing after these like 5 motorcycles that are riding away. Finds them pretty easily, and then Dementis knows that he's being followed, so he's like, all right, let's switch bikes basically, and let's split up. It's been nice knowing you. We did some cool things together. Goodbye.
No time for long goodbyes. We did some epic shit. You're like, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, which I love that.
This is like I love the Odyssey. Okay,
Yeah.
Homer's The Odyssey. Okay,
Yes.
we're gonna talk some Greek stuff soon. In fact, wink,
Mhm.
wink, listeners.
Mm.
That's a look ahead. That is a story that it's a long tale. It's a Greek epic. It's 5 acts. I'm sure,
Mhm.
sure,
Brother, Where
sort
Art
of like
Thou?
this story, right? Oh,
Hey.
Brother, Where Art Thou? Great adaptation, Jacob. Thank you. Where it has frustrating elements, where it's like Odysseus's
Fair.
crew opens up his bag that has the wind in it, and it sends his ship, even further, even though he was almost home. Like these roadblocks that keep happening.
Yeah.
But it never feels like I've lost him as the main character of the story. And the thing Mike's complaining about, where it's like, why does she not have an active role in the last act of her film? That's so strange.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she doesn't in the war, but in the very end, she does when she's tracking
She-
down Dementis.
Yes, she forces it. Yes, in this
Yeah.
final moment here. Yeah.
Again, just I'm nitpicking,
I-
but like,
Yeah.
where's Jack? I guess you're the Imperior. It's you, Furio. So you drive the truck now. Like, if she made herself
Yeah.
valuable in the war to like show earning her position, I guess. You know
I'm
what
off
I mean?
the rig, Joe, because I'm going to the front lines. And they're all like, oh, like shit.
You have
Well,
one
she does
arm.
say,
You
like,
can't do
he's
shit.
mine
Like,
or whatever. But
Yes,
Yeah.
I know.
I think it's because Morton Joe, he still doesn't fully respect her yet. And
Right.
obviously his sons are like threatened by her too, because his sons want to be like the ones that are like in charge and stuff. So obviously
Fair.
Scrotus is like, I want to, kill Dementis. So to me, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
okay.
And then let's talk about this last scene where she tracks down Dementis. 'cause
Yeah,
this was
and
fucking crazy.
I like this. I like that the
Yeah.
ending is more of a conversation, and I like that the motorcycle chase was mirroring her mother, tracking down
Yes.
the motorcycles, sniping them like one by one.
Yes,
Like
you're right.
that's nice at least. So
But it gets into the idea of vengeance and is it worth it? Like the old saying, like when you're out for revenge, like dig 2 graves and that kind
Yep.
of thing. Like it's been the theme of many movies. Like vengeance, you never feel better after you kill the person.
Right.
That you've
I
been
like
wanting
his
to kill, right?
phrasing is it doesn't balance the scale, is what he says.
Yeah.
Jacob. I really like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
My childhood, my mother, I want them back. And he's like, well, I can't give them back. Like I
want
took
them
them, I
back.
can't give them back. Like I'm
Mhm.
sorry, but that's just the way the world works.
yeah, I do like
and you're
this
not gonna-
quiet
yeah.
ending. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an amazing payoff, and especially what she does to him. I think thematically is just
the
remarkable.
ambiguousness of it, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like
Mhm.
some say she shot him right there, some say she dragged him around behind her bike, some say she took him back to the Citadel, grew a tree out of him, and it's
And I like that
Who
could also
knows?
not be canon. Like we really
Yeah.
don't know, even though they show
well, it's
it
like
to
yeah,
us,
it's an
just
unreliable
a storyteller. Yeah, yeah.
I heard
That's
this
what
from Furiosa's
that's what
own
she
lips.
whispered to me, and you assume it's the history man.
I think
Yeah.
the history man. When I assume that joined a Morton Joe's, community.
Tell me about this Harley
is
Davidson specs.
Is the organic mechanic here? We kind of know each other. He could
Yeah.
vouch for me.
Yes, he makes good human kebabs with lizard meat.
Yeah.
Organic, I would maybe want to be an organic mechanic because if you're,
I don't think you'd make
He's
it.
also cooking people for Dementis, so I don't know if
But if
Yeah,
you're,
I don't
if
know.
you have medical experience in the wasteland, you're always
fair.
valuable. So you're never, people aren't going to kill you because you're so valuable. So it is a question of like, you need to do something that makes you valuable enough that you're not going to get killed, right?
I think I have a mind for useless facts that I would just be a history man. Let me tell you
Yeah.
about
Same.
Star Wars again.
Yes,
But you're
exactly.
like a tinkerer. I think you could be a good black thumb.
I could be a good black thumb.
You'd be
I
a
think,
black thumb.
for
Mike,
real.
I'd be a history man. I'd be like,
I'll be a
please
black
don't kill
thumb,
me.
man.
You'd
That's
be a
true.
history man. I told you guys off pod I would want to be the Doof Warrior if I could.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
fucking play guitar for the troops. If I
The
couldn't be the Doof
montage
Warrior,
in the war, we get that the Doof Warrior's there, and you're like, okay,
course,
yeah, I know.
Yep. I mean, which is,
but if I couldn't be the Doof Warrior, I'd have to settle for being a piss boy, I guess.
This boy.
Piss Boy's a bad
boy.
job, man.
It is.
But,
it is.
Yeah, but I think overall, it's an odyssey. It's kind of, I like the ending, but it just spends time on the wrong things occasionally, I guess, is my main criticism. That being said, it's better than
And
most
then the
movies I've
ending,
seen.
The last shot is sort of the end of Rogue One. Like, and this leads into A New Hope, because then Darth Vader attacked this ship. And, it's like, and then she led the wives out to this truck.
Which,
and
credits,
how it
don't
goes.
show the clips from A New Hope at the end of Rogue One.
That would be crazy, Mike.
That's what I'm saying, unnecessary.
I guess you're right.
Real quick, sorry, the cameo, when she's doing her last little chase down of him, I guess right before the war, right? We do get Max right by the car, and it's played by
we get one little
Tom's
shot.
stunt double.
I was going to make a trivia question of, who played Mad Max and Furiosa, because it's just that one shot from a distance. But yeah, it's a stunt double, which is very cool. I didn't realize that till I researched it. He also doubled for him for like the Revenant and like a Venom. It's like it's been a stunt double for a lot of stuff. So
pretty cool.
Well, to me, he looked.
I would be
like
so happy to be him. Like I was Mad Max once.
He looked like the knockoff Mad Max from the video game.
No, it's just his back.
Yeah.
But again, unnecessary, but whatever. Not intrusive.
Video game. Do you get the car?
Well,
The Interceptor?
so the plot of the video game is that he loses his famous car in the beginning, and then he's riding this like old junker around for a while, and then he meets Chumbuck, and he's like, I will design you the master opus. It'll be called
the Magnum
Master
Opus, right?
The Magnum Opus.
Yeah, that's right.
From
That's cool.
Thunderdome on, the plot of these movies have been get rid of the car. The 1973 Thunderbird Ford XB Coupe V8 Interceptor Special is the coolest car that has ever been on cinema screen.
But I feel like
Put
every
that
Mad
car
Max,
in the fucking movies.
every
Yeah.
Mad Max is him losing his car in the
I
beginning.
hate it.
And then trying to get it back. Like the Road Warrior, he loses his car in the beginning, and he
Needs gas.
needs gas for it, and then it gets destroyed in the final chase, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
in
he's got the
Thunderdome,
traps in it. You get so much good car action in that one,
That
dog.
is good,
It's
yeah.
the best. It's the fucking
Oh,
best.
man. Well, they
And in
get
the
his
beginning
car,
of Thunderdome,
yeah.
he's riding just the chassis of
I
car
hate
being
it.
pulled by camels, right?
Oh man, but I mean, yeah, it was brave of George Miller, and I mean, I like the car. I want to see the car, but to open Fury Road with like, here's the car, you see it? Fuck the car, it's gone. Like, damn, like that's a really bold choice to make for Fury Road.
Yeah.
Luckily, it paid off, but
Well, that's why Colin doesn't like. That's why he prefers the Road Warrior, because it doesn't show the car enough in Fury Road.
I see.
It's not a
That's
Mad
fine.
Max movie.
No, that's fine. But neither was this. But it was a Furiosa movie, and it was pretty badass. But do we think maybe it's time to shift gears, downshift final thoughts, and kind of wrap up Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, right after this?
Let's do it.
All right, Road One, a Mad Max Saga. You're welcome.
We're back here on Normies Like Us. We're wrapping up here at the Wasteland, like Mike said. We're saying goodbye to Martin Joe. We're saying goodbye to Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga here on Normies Like Us. We're saying goodbye to Praetorian Jack. What does Praetorian mean?
Oh, geez.
That's like an old Roman term.
Praetorian Guard, isn't that what they
Praetorian
call
Guard.
the guy who in Star Wars?
In
The
Star,
red guys?
yes, that's correct. But it comes from, it's like an old like a Roman general or something.
It's an
like a
elite unit
Praetorian.
of the Imperial Roman Army. They served as
Jack is
personal
so
bodyguards, intelligence agents, and Roman emperors.
Yeah,
I
there you go.
am on this podcast, can I say real quick, with
Mhm.
some two Jack handsome motherfuckers who, if they wanted this Halloween, I think you both could pop those glasses
Oh,
off,
man.
maybe rub a little oil over top up there.
Do a little
Be
black.
pulling
on the
off a
forehead.
little Praetorian Jack. I think that'd be looking pretty good.
Here's the
guys.
thing.
I think
The black on the forehead is a cool look.
It's
can't
cool.
go further down because the more you do, the more questionable it is.
Jack, what are you doing?
Right.
If you do
Well,
the whole
it's
face,
cultural.
that's a no-no.
Oh, it's cultural, Jack? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks cool, and I like when Furiosa grabs the engine grease, but you know how baseball players put the black under their eyes to stop
Yeah.
reflections? Like, you'd think it would be more practical to do that in the desert. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
it's helping you, but it looks cool. But anyway.
It looks
I think
really
it's cool. I think
it
in this,
shades
she
the sun
looks
a little
cool
bit.
with it, too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I
When she reaches her
appreciate-
file form, buzz cut,
Yeah.
black
I don't
on the
like that
forehead.
form. I don't need that.
My favorite form is stowaway. Short pipe
yes,
with
the
clamps.
halfway. Yes.
I did like
yes.
that with leather
Yes.
hat,
Mhm.
mute. Yeah. Just
And even
a
that
little
guy
boy
to,
with
like-
really big eyes.
Yeah, but when she's found underneath with her motorcycle and the guy's like gonna die with the pipe, and he's like, I can't even ask what you're doing. Just take this pipe. I'm gonna die now. And like that shows how she trusted Max. It's like, I just need you to do the fucking right thing right
Yes.
now. So
Yeah.
we survive.
Yes.
Like I
Black
like
thumb.
that.
But she didn't
Half quarter
immediately
hose?
trust Max because at first, like, she's trying to kill Max, but then did kind of trust him pretty quickly after that.
But it's
Any
like
of the criticisms people have with
what do I
Fury
call
Road,
you,
I do not
fool?
have. I want to make that clear. Yeah.
yeah,
what?
but like some of the stuff that like that's a direct thing where it's like, okay, sometimes you just have to do the damn thing. Like, all right. But yeah, I mean, quick final thoughts for me. I mean, I'm trying to find my rankings. I'll do that right before we're done. But I like it. I like it more than a lot of movies, but I find it unnecessary in the compendium of Mad Max universe because I don't want them to be connected to each other. I want each one to be standalone. I would have preferred not having War Boys. As much as I like the notebook that George is showing me, I would prefer a completely
I disagree.
unconnected movie. And that's fine. We can agree to disagree, but that's just kind of where I'm at. I think it's the behind the scenes of Lord of the Rings. I can learn all the little details that I didn't see in Fury Road, but I don't personally need it. But I respect the craft people, like all the tech behind it, the directing, the acting, the effort. I respect it all. It's just maybe
Sure.
not for me. But it also doesn't mean it's bad. So I'm kind of conflicted.
I would say, to rebuttal you a little bit,
Fair.
it's because Fury Road is hinting at this larger world with Immortan Joe and all this stuff
Mm-hmm.
that it does kind of leave you wanting more. At least that was my experience when I just rewatched Fury Road. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this movie's so cool. I want to know more about Immortan Joe. I want to know more about the Citadel, the War Boys, like all this stuff. Like it's so interesting to me. And so this movie kind of gives me what I wanted out of that.
Okay.
And I would almost compare this to the Star Wars prequels, where it's like they weren't necessary, but George Lucas is like, yeah, I want to tell the story of like, they mentioned the Clone Wars in A New Hope. I'm going to tell you what the Clone Wars were all about. And previously, before the prequels existed, like people could just make up their own idea of what the Clone Wars was. And so this is kind of taking that away and saying, no, this is what the Clone Wars is. So either you like that or you don't. But
Do you think Max was just at the top of that mountain, Jacob, watching the 40-day road war that all the time, go like, this is fucking nuts?
Yeah. And maybe, I mean, it does kind of like putting Max in there is like, okay, so he knew these people before, or he saw them at least.
They
Is a
imply
little
that
silly.
maybe he dragged her back. I don't think that's the case, but like it could be inferred that he helped her. I don't think that's...
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't
didn't
think that's
that.
true, but it could be...
Yeah,
you could
I
read
think it was just that
way.
one shot because Max famously like doesn't like to get involved if he doesn't have to, right? So he's just observing this chase scene or whatever, and it's just like, oh, I'm just minding my own business, eating some dog food probably.
Yeah. Which is fine. So then
for
the question,
me,
I guess, does it balance the scales now that you have it? You wanted more of the world. Does it balance the scales for you? It seems like it does.
For me,
in your
it does.
case.
And for me, the connectedness is less of a problem also because I played the video game, which is very connected to Fury Road in terms of lore and stuff, and Scrotus being the antagonist, this son of Immortan Joe, which is very silly. Like it's a very video game knockoff kind of thing to do where they're like, it's going to be kind of like Fury Road, but we got to make it a little bit different. So it's going to be out
Joe's son.
Scrotus. Yeah.
Mhm.
And not the one that or Rictus Erectus, who was in Fury Road, but a different
Muay Thai
son that
giant.
wasn't in Fury Road.
Right.
But this movie somehow makes the video game better and makes Fury Road better to me.
Maybe that's the missing link because I have to play the game. We'll see. Colin, where are the scales balancing?
Well, I want to ask Jacob one last question, and I guess you as well, to say before I answer this question of did it make it epic?
Did you make it epic?
Make it epic.
First of all, that line when it happens is pretty crazy because basically it's Dementius saying like, "Oh, today's the day I die. I
My
always wanted to
death.
know."
Make
Yeah,
my death
and you
epic.
make it epic,
Mm-hmm.
and she does because I guess she keeps him alive, but grows a tree out of him, with
I
that
guess.
seed that I
Maybe.
assume her mom gave her at the beginning.
Yep.
But I think it was pretty epic. Again, not better than Fury Road, not better than one of the greatest movies ever made, surprisingly
Right.
enough.
Yeah.
But still a very good movie. I'm glad it exists. We could talk a little bit about the future of Mad Max, and we could talk about the box office of this.
That
if
should be
we want.
mentioned.
That's
Baby.
yeah, 100%.
90
course-
and 90 for audience and critics and Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
90
Oh,
and
that's
90.
great.
So good for
But to
them.
me,
Let me
it's-
look up
it's
Fury
a lot
Road.
like Fury Road, where it was very appreciated by a certain group of people, but also not a box office success. It wasn't a failure, Fury Road, but it wasn't. It like I said, it basically broke even.
Well, Jacob, you were begging us to do a Garfield movie episode instead. We said no. We're doing
Yeah.
Furiosa.
Mm-hmm.
But like this movie, made 30 million opening weekend. Fury Road
Yeah.
made 45 million, so only 15 million more. So it's not like
Right.
it did great. The fact that we got this movie at all is kind of a miracle.
It's
The
really
fact that we
not
got
good,
Fury
though,
Road
guys.
is a miracle too. Like,
Yeah.
fair.
Well, that's the thing is George Miller says he wants to make another Mad Max movie, like an actual Mad Max movie called Mad Max Wasteland. Tom Hardy is
Mhm.
interested. Whether we'll get that movie now with how this movie did,
Oh,
it's
I would
much,
assume not.
much more of a question because it's like,
Is it-
yeah,
Is it worth
Movie
even
9
saying
years.
that? Which is too long again. But you
It'll be-
guys keep
it'll be
saying
90.
5 years. 5 years too long.
yeah,
But is it even worth saying that, like, and obviously the hype was so high because Fury Road won Academy Awards.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was nominated for Best Picture. I don't think
Yeah.
this movie will be nominated for Best Picture.
No.
But and if you
But
know a
it'll
little
get-
bit about the background of Fury Road, it's pretty interesting because Tom
Mhm.
Hardy and Charlize Theron did not get along on set. Like they had very different acting styles. They didn't like they kind of had a falling out on set to the
Mhm.
point where, and also they both didn't understand kind of what George Miller was going for until they saw it, the finished
Mhm.
product, to the point where Tom Hardy like publicly apologized and was like, I didn't really get what was happening when we were filming this movie, but it was all kind of in George Miller's head. And now that I see it, like he's a fucking genius. And
Right.
it's interesting because Anya Taylor-Joy has had some interview moments where she said similar things, like filming this, like a lot of it, there's no dialogue, so I'm just kind of alone in the desert, not talking, and I did not really understand what was happening. It was very hard to act.
And yeah, I'm not in half the movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But now that I see it, yeah, George Miller is a genius.
But she said this
Um,
quote where she said, Ask me what I thought of this filming process 10 years from now, which scares me that do people on George Miller sets have bad times? I don't understand what this is.
It's
What's
just his
going
way
on?
of doing it because he has it all in his head, but he's not maybe good at communicating what it's going to look like. So he's kind of just like, okay, so now you drive this car here and you go here, and it all makes sense in
The
post.
fan's going to blow in and we'll move and you'll go whoosh. And
Yeah,
you're like,
right.
Okay, yeah, well.
And I
Fury
think
Road
some of
was like storyboarded. The whole thing was every shot was thought of before they rolled. So you're just filming
Right.
fragments of a sequence. Like how
But
do
as
you
an actor,
imagine what it's going to be?
it's-
Yeah.
he's not maybe not giving them enough to go on.
No.
But actors are notoriously kind of
And being in the
weird a lot of
desert
times.
sucks, just in general.
Yes.
Some of the comments she made about this, some people were taking it as, oh no, is like George Miller like a creep or something? But I don't think it's like that. It's just
Yeah,
No.
that's
the
just what
hard-
I worry. But
Yeah.
I
Or is he a
think you're right.
Kubrick?
I think
Yeah.
it's more he knows exactly what he wants, but it's hard to communicate that to the actors and stuff.
Demanding and unexpressive. I think
Yeah.
that's fair.
And when you're making things that
Um,
nobody else knows how to make. Like
Yeah.
nobody can
I was reading
imagine
a
what
lot-
you do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was reading a lot about like the behind the scenes of Fury Road and stuff, and
Mhm.
how it was kind of a troubled shoot because of like Charlize and Tom didn't get along. Tom Hardy apparently was like just late to set a lot and was just difficult to work with, and Charlize was very like disciplined and like they just did not get along at
Mhm.
all. But that kind of helps the movie because in a certain way, like that kind of fits their character.
Right.
So it
That
leads to
friction.
that tension in the movie. Yeah. But after the movie came out, Tom Hardy's like, actually, I do want to do another Mad Max movie now because I get it. And so
All right.
Mad
Yeah.
Max Wasteland is the movie that which
I don't know.
probably
He-
would be
turns out
George
that's-
again.
Miller's last movie. Yeah.
Well, but he was really never my favorite Mad Max either. So I don't know.
Well, yeah.
Road
I mean, if
Warrior
you're comparing
is my
to the
favorite Mad
original,
Max.
I'm
Yeah.
saying bring Mel back. I'm demanding
Whoa.
it.
I
Old
mean,
Mel?
first of all, he's
He
old.
plays the dad. He's Daddy Max.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. We're going to get an
Also
Indiana
another-
Jones.
Matty Daddy.
If I can share a little bit of fun fact about Fury Road,
Please.
on this rewatch, I thought it was interesting. The wives, some of them are obviously kind of big actors now, especially Zoe Kravitz, of course,
Mhm.
is one of the wives, and Riley Keough is one of the wives, who is Elvis's granddaughter,
Mhm.
of course, and is now kind of in more stuff. But fun fact, she met her husband on the shoot of Fury Road, who was a stuntman on Fury Road, who was the Doof Warriors stunt double.
Yo.
So
Very
she
fun.
married
Double.
the Doof Warriors stunt double.
So close.
Also,
so close
one
to
of
greatness.
one of the wives, the splendid Angharad, was Rosie Huntington Whitley, who was in that
Mhm.
Transformers movie. If you remember, she was like the Megan Fox
Splendid.
replacement.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
You know who she's
anyway,
married
Fury
to?
Road, great movie. No, Shia LaBeouf.
Mike, do you know who she's married to?
No, I do not. Do you?
Jason Statham.
Whoa.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Good job.
He's a little older than her.
A little bit older.
Okay.
You know,
Well,
makes sense.
It's interesting, isn't it?
well, yeah.
I
It's
forgot Zoe
interesting
Kravitz
indeed.
was one of the wives. I was like, wait, you're Catwoman.
Catwoman, yeah, exactly. No, we love Zoe
And she's
Kravitz.
cool in it too. She's got a good part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she's like
she's
the-
cool.
She's maybe the Dag.
Or
Yeah, she's like
capable.
loading the
Capable.
guns and stuff.
Capable, the Dag,
Capable.
the splendid Angharad.
Yeah, Splendid's the best.
Oh, yeah.
Splendid.
Got some great names in this one. My Smeg will tell you.
My
Yeah, now we
Smeg.
know what a
My
Smeg
Smeg
is.
will pick.
Yeah.
So we did, yeah. We get
Uh,
the Piss Boys. We know how Gastown works. We know what Black Thumbs are. Like that stuff's fine.
We
you know.
do.
Yeah.
Here's
It explains
so
a
here's
lot about
my
the
final
lore.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Good.
Tonight, I'm gonna watch a run through the video game because
Nice.
that
Wow.
seems
Maybe
like
I'll do that.
like mandatory
revisit the
viewing,
video game now.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I'll tell you the
Cutscenes.
first. So in the beginning, Max meets Scrotus and gets in a fight with him and attacks his head with a chainsaw, and so he just has a chainsaw stuck in his head for the rest of the game, but he's still
that's
alive. somehow.
awesome.
Yeah.
I
That's
love
Scrotus.
that detail. I loved all the. I mean, Scrotus is dressed like a Greek general this entire time.
Mm,
We just learned the fact that Praetorian means
Praetorian, yeah.
a guard, a Greek guard. Again, this epicness, the Odyssey. I think that's what he's doing. This is a parable. This is a tale. It seems purposeful. I called it challenging earlier. I'm not gonna lie. It is beyond and above me. I'm not positive why, but this material felt like it was fighting back against me as a viewer. And I don't necessarily think that's always a wrong thing. But in this case, it just felt like material I could not just grasp on or relate to. It's not going to be in my top 10 for the year. Unfortunately, when it comes to big sandy movies, I'm shocked. I didn't think I'd be this way. I think Dune 2 is better.
I mean, I agree with that.
I mean, I agree with that as well. It's a difficult movie. It's not as much of a crowd pleaser as like Fury Road is. So I agree
Fair.
with that. And we didn't really talk about the box office yet, but
Yeah, please.
Is it
Please do.
losing
And then give your
Garfield?
rankings. Talk
Yeah.
box office, and then I think we
Yeah.
give our rankings, right?
there's been a lot of news about the failure of this movie at the box office. I
Yeah.
think it made 30 million in its opening weekend, the lowest grossing Memorial Day weekend in 30 years, I think, which is
Yeah.
crazy. And it was going, it was this and the Garfield movie, second week of Planet of the Apes. If it's a wasteland at the movie theater, but I don't think
Damn.
it's all on this movie. I think it's
The
general
industry's having an issue.
trends of the industry. And I think people were kind of fooled by like Barbie and Oppenheimer last year. That was, fool's gold. I think post-pandemic movie theater, you got to lower your expectations because movie theater attendance has not been the same ever since 2020.
You have to remanufacture an event. That was an event.
Yeah.
This was not an
Barbenheimer.
event.
No, and Dune 2 was more of an event than this. Like Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm sure will do well. That's like a big event. But if
But
you're
they're
not a big
already
event like
planting the
that,
seeds. Did you guys get the Red Band trailer? Did you get the turn your cell
I
phones
got the
off?
turn your
Yes.
cell
That's
phones off.
like already,
People
Jacob. I'm
also,
like, I'm being tricked. This is an
yeah,
event.
people
Mhm.
thought that was the funniest shit in my theater.
Yes.
Oh
I was
my
like,
My
God.
audience went
I don't
crazy.
know.
I loved it. I thought it was
Yeah,
great.
I'm very skeptical about. I know everyone
I
is
know.
super hyped for this movie. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be bad. I'm not
Yeah.
excited at all.
You're
But
That's
taking
fair.
my Furiosa take and
yeah,
applying it to the Wolverine.
but I think there's a couple reasons this movie didn't do well. And like I said, it's a sequel, it's a prequel to a 9-year-old movie that doesn't feature the same actors that movie had. Like
Mm-hmm.
not only does it not have Mad Max, it doesn't have the original Furiosa. So that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I think people, you have to remember that the quality of a movie does not really correlate with how it does financially. And
Performs.
like
Correct.
really good movies bomb all the time, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Blade Runner 2049 was a box office bomb, one of the best movies of the
Mm-hmm.
last 20 years to me.
That's in my top 10 too.
So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. Like, yes, it sucks that it didn't do better, but I don't think that has anything to do with the quality of the movie necessarily. It's just the environment. Maybe it wasn't marketed as well as it could have been. And maybe Mad Max just isn't a franchise that you can expect to be a huge hit. Like
It's
it
not
never has
ubiquitous.
been.
No.
Yeah.
It's
Fury
always
Road
been
was not a huge
niche.
hit. Yeah.
Even
Fury
in
Road
the old movies.
got a cult sort of status afterwards, like in streaming and DVD is when it really took on a life of its own. But in
I would
theaters, it was
argue
not a hit.
airing on FX on the FX channel used to matter when things would stream on and you'd be like, whoa, I just watched the middle of Fury Road. I'm going to sit down and watch it when it airs again at 10. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like,
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
theater going, it's become a thing where it's like, well, I'll just wait for this movie to come on streaming. It'll be like 2-3 weeks. It'll be on streaming these days. And it's like you
Fall
have
Guy.
to make the theater experience. There has to be something to make people willing to pay money to go to the theaters. Now you go, people are talking in theaters, like all kinds of trouble. Like it's just not the same. I don't
No,
know.
I had
Maybe we're just
somebody
getting
in
old.
front of
but
me. They were
yeah.
on their cell phone the whole time, and like I can just see it in the corner of my eye. I'm trying to watch the
come
movie, but I
on.
just see your stupid rectangle, and it's like I want to slap you. I want
Yeah.
5 motorcycles now. Chain you
I
up.
just think people are still going by pre-pandemic expectations of what a movie will make,
Mhm.
and nothing makes that anymore. Like MCU movies don't hit like they used to. Like nothing does anymore,
No.
except for the
Audiences
rare
have
exception.
changed.
Yeah.
Right. I've seen talk of like, what if, like as a hypothetical, they removed the monopoly of theaters being owned by studios? Because if studios own their own theaters, then they would get 100% ticket costs as a way to life support the industry. I don't know how I feel one way or another, but the theater going experience isn't premium enough. Like I had to go
Yeah.
to a Regal instead of the Alamo, and I was like, oh no, a
Right.
normal movie
Well,
theater? Like, oh
yeah.
no.
But I saw this comparison online in the box office subreddit because I was very curious to look at the collateral damage of what people thought all this was going to go. And Mike, the metaphor somebody used was, do you still go to the arcade? No, you got
Mm-mm.
video games at home.
That's very
Damn.
true. It's like the death of the arcade in like the 80s and 90s where they transitioned to consoles. With this, it's like the only thing theaters can really offer is like the size of the screen. Like you can
It
see it on a
has
big
to be
screen.
premium, and if their
Yeah.
phones are
Mhm.
on, if I'm getting screamed at, if we're like, I'll
Yo,
say
if
the
you're getting in a
thing that
fight.
bummed me this time, yo, and we almost did. We'll tell that
Planet of
story in
the
a
Apes.
month or two. It'll
Yeah.
be very funny if
Jesus.
we remember it. But I'll say the thing that bummed me in my viewing, Jacob, I was maybe underneath the single air conditioner blowing on me the entire time. I
Really?
was losing my mind while I was watching.
It was
this
like
movie.
too
I was
hot in
so
there or too-
cold. No,
oh,
it was
too-
freezing. It was so cold.
I
In the
always kind of
desert.
have that problem where a lot of theaters are just over air conditioned and freezing to me, but I'm also
Yeah.
naturally a colder person, so I don't know.
I bring a
Um,
sweater, yeah.
But yeah, back in the days, you had to go see a movie in theaters if you wanted to see it because otherwise you'd have to catch it on TV at some point. Then, with the advent of VHS and then DVD, that kind
Now
of
that you
changed.
have
But
8K at
now,
home,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Now
what
it's
does
like,
it matter? Why
and
run
now,
to this?
the studios are so afraid that they have movies come out like a month after they come out, they're already on streaming. So it's like, why not just wait at this point? Like, unless it's a movie you really want to see, there's no cost analysis of like going to that theater actually. So
Right.
I don't know how we can fix it. I think people just have to lower the expectations. Like it happened with Fall Guy. People are like, oh, this movie, why isn't it doing well? Like it seemed like it would be a huge hit. It's rare these days. It's rare to have a big hit movie.
Right. Even ones that are tied to Oscar-winning,
Yeah.
generational seminal pieces of work. So, yeah, I don't know. I would go to the movies if it's worth it, but yeah, the theater experience isn't super great. I didn't have a
I think people are
Furiosa
being
popcorn bucket available to me, you know?
no. People are being kind of hard on this movie for how much it's making. It's like I don't think it's this movie's fault necessarily. I just think it's general trends of theater going.
I think the industry is
culture.
scapegoating. Like they're blaming the
Oh, for
movies
sure.
for the industry just being in a decline, which sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm
Like,
just very
I-
nervous that Anya Taylor-Joy is going to become a streaming star, or Chris Hemsworth is going to have to keep doing those documentaries where he finds out he has Alzheimer's or whatever horrible thing happened to him.
Well, it's like the
can't
Ryan
remember.
Gosling
Right.
effect. Like he can't look at Fall Guy. Like we said, Blade
Yeah.
Runner.
Yeah.
He can't draw.
You're-
It's not.
You're a
his
movie
fault.
star.
Well, that's-
wink, wink.
That's the
Yeah.
ironic thing now with streaming is that Netflix pays all this money to get exclusive rights to a movie, but then it doesn't have the same cultural impact as a theater released movie. So you have
Red Notice, The Gray
Yeah.
Man.
but even
Mhm.
the so Ryan
Atlas.
Johnson, the Benoit Blanc movies. So you have Knives Out, big theater hit, people loved it, people were talking about it. Its sequel, Glass Onion, goes straight to Netflix. No one's talking about it after a couple weeks because it's such a non-entity because it just gets lost in the streaming
Shuffle
muck pile, so it's like
in the scum
I don't know
bucket.
what yeah I
Yeah.
don't know what we do about it. I don't know. It's just the whole model is changing.
Well, we've never had more to watch, ever. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
too much shit. So it's like
Even Chris
nothing's going to
Evans.
draw that much attention.
Captain America, he's doing all this streaming fake movies now.
But it is, I know, but it is the type. Like I had a friend who said, I want to see Challengers, but that's the type of movie you just wait for streaming. Where you just go
Yeah.
like, it is, but then like you realize you saying that means they won't make more movies like Challengers, right? Like that's
Right.
the issue.
I'm the
It's-
same way too because I saw Civil War in theaters a couple weeks ago. I saw Monkey Man in theaters, but I made an effort to go see those movies because like I
Good
want
for
to
you.
support more movies in theaters.
Yeah.
I wanted to see Challengers in theaters. Didn't get the chance. At this point, I'm like, I'll wait until it's on streaming in like a week.
Yeah.
It's like Love Lies Bleeding. I really wanted to get like that's a film that people would say
Yeah.
is just wait for streaming. I couldn't get
Yeah.
to the
Proud of you
theaters.
guys. My dad, when I told him that, like, I skipped going with you, Jacob, because I was so busy. That's why I went to this early matinee. When I was talking to him
Right.
yesterday about it, he was like, if you don't go, I will be heartbroken. Like, people have to go to this movie. I was like,
Gotta
oh,
support the movies
all
that
right.
you want to see more of. Right?
I know.
Yeah, I guess.
And that's the thing. Like, is this
transition
going to affect? Just
Hmm.
the future of Mad Max, where we know
Yes,
George
it
Miller
will.
wants to make this. It's called Mad Max Wasteland. It's going to star Tom Hardy. It's going to come out. I got to believe in my soul.
I wonder, Jacob, is this almost akin to the last Matrix movie where does this kind of just mean Warner Brothers takes this away from him?
Oh man, I wonder.
I don't know. I don't.
It's not his fault though.
They
Yeah.
can't do that. They can't do
I don't
that.
think
will
it's the
fucking- I
Wachowskis'
will
fault.
fight
I
them.
don't think it's
Yeah.
her
No.
fault that the fourth Matrix
Well,
movie bombed. It was
no
all
one
That
very
movie was
confusing.
Mad
underappreciated.
Max.
That movie was
Yeah.
misunderstood and underappreciated.
I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, when
I'll
George
stand by
Miller,
that.
Which maybe this film is as well. I don't
Yeah.
know.
so
You gotta
I
let
went-
him make another one. He's gonna die in like between
Yeah,
5 to 20 years from now.
the Ministry of Australian Culture deserves to have one more of these made.
Right.
Yeah, the former prime minister deserves another role.
Another run.
Yeah.
I
don't
wonder if
know.
I'm gonna see this again in theaters. I assume at least one more time, but it's not gonna be 4 times like Fury Road, unfortunately. But maybe Colin's right, where maybe I need more time to digest the material because it is so different.
He did say George Miller said he is making a black and chrome version of this movie as well.
Oh, that's interesting. We talked about we really liked the Fury Road
Mhm.
version of that. I don't know. Huh.
Godzilla minus color, whatever. Yeah, give it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess if I'm gonna rank, dare I rank first?
Please.
So I will say, Fury Road is my number 1 favorite Mad Max movie, followed by The Road Warrior, and then it's the first hour of Beyond Thunderdome, and then it's this, and then it's the last hour of Beyond Thunderdome, and then
I like
Wow.
that.
no, then it's
I'm
Mad Max, and
stealing
then the
that.
final hour of Beyond Thunderdome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I cut that movie in half.
That's not bad. For
Yeah.
for my ranking, I will say Fury Road number 1, Road Warrior number 2, Furiosa number 3 for me, Mad Max 1, number 4, and then Beyond Thunderdome, number 5. But I also say there's never been a bad Mad Max movie, and I like all of them, and I just did the full rewatch, and I appreciate all of them for what they are, even Beyond Thunderdome, even though I don't love the Lost Boys stuff either. I do think there's a lot of good stuff that I like in that.
I appreciate
Well,
the
hold on.
stupid
The first
TV.
hour.
There's elements of the Lost Boys I like, but anyway, go ahead.
Bartertown is incredible. I like all the stuff.
Yeah.
Also, that's where I would live if I was in this.
What's a little
horrible
Fallout?
world. I know that like if I kill a
Better
pig, like
than-
it's whatever,
yeah.
but I would live in Bartertown.
Could be like an Auntie Entity.
Sorry, brothel's full.
Posse, and just like
I could just have a job. I could just be selling
music.
stuff. It would be
Yeah.
good. But
Yeah.
Jacob, you said earlier that you were really struggling, and it seemed like you were very locked into Furiosa 3 there. Did us talking about it have the opposite effect of how it's doing with me, where it's raising it up? Did it bring it down a little for you, us talking about this movie?
It might have. I mean, Road Warrior is also a really good movie that I like a lot. So it's like hard to, but I'm between the, like those two are very close to me. I think this one, it does have some flaws. So I'm willing to admit it's not as structured of a movie as Fury Road. But yeah, it's really close between Road Warrior and Furiosa, but I got to give the edge to Road Warrior. Maybe with rewatches it'll go up, but I think this movie does have flaws. I'll say that.
All right, I'm doing Road Warrior 1, Fury Road 2. I'm secure in saying I like Captain Walker. We're going to the Thunderdome.
Captain Walker.
3. Then I will say Furiosa. Then I will say Mad Max 1.
I think Mad Max 1 on this rewatch better, liked it more than I expected, and
underrated.
Underrated. Like the car crash stuff, like when you know like the budget that it was made on, and the fact that like this is George Miller's first movie, he's trying stuff out. It's pretty good.
I like it more than I've ever liked it when I rewatched it as well.
And it is very different, where it's like it's not quite the post-apocalypse yet, but you see society starting to break down. You know, there's crazy biker gangs on the roads.
Here's the thing. Watch Mean Streets. Is that a Scorsese movie? It's his first.
Yes.
Sure, of course it is. But does it feel like a Scorsese movie? It does. There's a little bit of violence.
Yeah.
Watch Woody Allen's first movie. What's that?
Yeah.
It's two people having a conversation. Great. George Miller, for his first movie, made a film about people crashing cars into each other at high speeds. Like, it's remarkable, the choice to do that.
The budget was so limited that on a lot of those shots, they had one chance to do it because they had one car, and if they wreck that car, like they can't get the shot. Yeah. So good stuff.
Yeah, respect to George Miller. I think we, especially me, I've been pointing out things that I didn't love about this movie, but it's a George Miller Mad Max movie. It's good, So grain of salt. It's better than most movies you're going to watch ever. I'm just very protective of my Mad Max universe. Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Mm-hmm. The craftsmanship is impeccable. The Black Thumbs really did it with this movie. I tell you what, So
that's right.
Witness it.
Well,
the Bullet
witness
movies.
us.
Please witness it. That would be nice. Thank you for witnessing us.
Witness us
and
on
for
YouTube.
following along. Witness us on YouTube. Check us out at Normies_like_us, where you can send radio calls to the gas man and say, I like that podcast, I do, and we'll take that and we'll be happy. Yeah. Otherwise, we've been your hosts. This is I don't know, I guess Tall Mentis.
Morton Mike. Do not become addicted to water.
And this is Praetorian Jake.
Hey, Truckman Jake.
At the war rig.
It's good. I like it.
Yeah.
He's so lucky. What a life you have, Praetorian Jake.
After seeing Furiosa's journey, it's Anya Taylor sorrow.
Wow.
Not really
tears
Anya
of
Taylor
sorrow,
joy.
not tears of joy. That's right.
Anyway. All right.
Bye.
Bye.